Hello everyone, welcome to Adobe Live. I'm your host Fabiola, and today I'm here with Evan Abrams, who's going to tell us all about what's new in Adobe Premiere Pro. There's a lot of updates. Let's get into it. I mean, we have a lot going on today.
There is. We have a rich full day of activities. So we're going to be giving you kind of a high-level look at what's new, what's exciting, what's interesting. If you have questions, get at us in the chat.
Bring them.
We want to know what you're questioning about. But yeah, lots of big things in Premiere. There are lots of big things in After Effects. Other people are going to come on and get even deeper into a lot of the more advanced stuff, we'll say. So for now, if you want to crack open Premiere and follow along with us, that'd be great.
Top level overview of all the new things, and we've got Jeff in the chat, Oliver, Umacorn, thanks for being here. If you want to drop your questions over on the Behance chat, or if you're watching on YouTube, bring your questions. I'll be sure Evan gets to them, but I bet you he's going to get to them anyway. But, you know, just bring them just in case.
Yeah, we'll find out. So we might as well start at the beginning. Well, you know what? Should we?
Day one.
Yeah. No. Let's jump into the most exciting thing is enhancing speech. So I'm sure you've recorded speech. You've recorded your voice.
Oh yeah.
You're hearing our beautiful voices here in studio. So obviously there's a lot of processing and mixing and treatment to the room, right? That have gone into making us sound great, and our own natural.
And we do.
Yeah, our own.
And we always sound really good.
Yes, our own natural NPR voices. But anything can be enhanced, anything can be made great. And so you crack open Premiere, you grab a track, and you're going to find over here, when you're on version 24 of things, you're going to see this enhanced speech area in your essential sound spot, right? So if you haven't opened that before, you can go Window, and you come on down to the old Essential Sound. I'm currently in the Essentials workspace, so that's why mine looks like this. But you're going to see Enhance up there. Now, I'm going to turn...
It's a little button, but it is powerful.
It's a small button that does a lot of things.
It's understated. If I were designing, I'd make it huge.
Yeah, just a giant button.
But it's a very important button.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna de-enhance Andrew's speech here for a moment.
Okay.
And so we can enjoy...
This is just regular now.
Yeah.
No processing.
Yeah, this is natural.
Things in new ways. That's really what I love to do, is provide new and interesting...
So we get to enjoy some of him talking, and then I've already done the processing on it, and we've got the mix amount here cranked up to 100. So this is the maximum amount of processing on him.
Perspectives on things that may be familiar. So
he's sounding a lot more like baffled, right?
Yeah.
There is just, it's like he spent a lot of time and energy putting foam on his walls, you know? And obviously there's a lot of things you can do in the room to fix stuff up, but this is a great way to kind of get around that. So let's do a little...
Yeah, because not everyone wants foam on their walls.
Well, I did it
Unfortunately.
I did it to my office. It gets super hot in there.
Actually, let me grab these.
But also, you might be recording outside. You might be in a more naturalistic space. So
I am a brand identity designer, but outside of that, in a larger picture, I help people understand and experience things in new ways. That's really what I love to do, is provide new and interesting perspectives on things that...
So hopefully you can kind of hear the difference between those, right? And keep in mind, we recorded this, Andrew and I did this over Zoom. Zoom did a little bit of audio processing to it, but there's still so much more quality that you can juice out of this. So this is, of course, kind of an optimal thing, right? We're recording on modern microphones. We're in a very controlled environment.
Right. It was a bit subtle compared to what it's probably capable of.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Stay
tuned to find out.
Let's go back in time a little bit to when we'll say maybe microphones were not as good. So
Alex was speaking about the music of machinery, Judy.
The music of machinery. This is why this clip was chosen.
What I like to know about.
So we're going to enhance this as well. I've already run the processing on it. Now, when you do run it, you're going to notice that it's going to have a little spinning wheel on all of your clips as it processes them all the way through. To save time, we have to chop through this.
Yeah.
So let's listen to him totally enhanced.
Alex was speaking about the music of machinery, Judy.
Oh, thanks, there.
I feel like I'm right next to him.
Right?
It feels like he's right there. I'm immersed.
Now, of course, like some of his words were chopped, right?
Yeah.
Alex was speaking about the music of machinery.
Machinery, right?
Machinery, yeah.
Of course. This person's from Barcelona. They are... But we can just bring down the enhancement down. And if you're using archival footage, you'll probably be doing this anyway, because there is a kind of disconnect. Like, I don't I don't expect them to sound like this, right? We're losing.
Alex was speaking about the music of machinery, Judy.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dad.
But I do like music.
So we can
Very
bring that stuff back in. And the other thing that's interesting, let's crank this all the way up here. And I'm going to come down to clarity. So this is a feature that's already been on. I'm going to turn on dynamics for clarity. And let's see how well that does.
Alex was speaking about the music of machinery.
What? I am shocked. I am just like, what has the machinery done?
Exactly. So basically what we're doing is we're running two processes. The first is cleaning, and then the second one is enhancing. And it's important to remember that most of the times you encounter an effects rack, we're working from the top down. That's why we are enhancing first, which is it's really stripping away a lot of things. So that's enhancing.
So you would recommend enhancing first before doing the clarity?
Well, that's just kind of what happens, right? Because we're going from the top of the stack down. We're like, this happens, then this happens, then this happens type of deal.
Naturally.
And like there's other repair functions you can do if this doesn't quite get you there, and if you want to mix it in. But start here, see how well that does, and you might not have to do anything else. Right? That might be the end of it. However, we got more things to talk about. I know. I got
this was a big one, and I feel like if you just use iPhone mics or if you just record like with your camera mic,
right,
this is going to definitely help it sound much better because it even drowned out some of that background noise.
Yeah, all that hiss and crackle back there, which you can see. You can even see it on the waveform, right? If we just expand this down, you can see how much room scuzz. I don't know the technical term for this.
Little crispies.
Exactly. We got the crispies out. Now, this only works on dialogue, right? This is something that is only dialogue focused. This clip here, if we drag it out here, it has music on it. And we're going to find, so it's going to have to...
I want to hear this music.
I don't know.
I'm excited to hear it.
I'm not totally sure if you'll want to hear this music. But when you enhance music, weird things start to happen. So we're going to see how this kind of goes. See if it gets stuck on here.
Let's see.
I don't want to wait for the bar too long because we have other topics we must get to.
We have a lot of things to get to, but yeah, there is some rendering time required here as it is processing your files, but it's quite fast.
So this is an older machine, right? So I purposely brought this much older machine in with us. We're going to be talking about rotoscoping later. We're going to be talking about true 3D later. And so it's worth seeing a lot of these things. How does it work on older timelines? Now, the other thing that's worth mentioning is our timelines are going to be rendering about 5 times faster now. That's a little technical improvement to this stuff. We have got a lot of like under the hood things that are happening. Hold on, this is going to take 2 minutes of our day. We don't have that time. We must talk about another feature on here.
We're moving on, guys, but you can play with it, and it's the same functionality.
Yeah. So the other thing that's going on in the Essential Sound is what's called auto tagging. Now, we've only got 2 clips here, so obviously we're not making full use of this, but this one is predominantly audio. This one is predominantly music.
The other one's predominantly dialogue.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. It's all audio.
It's all audio. We are showing off the audio features.
That's true.
Here.
So we come in here, we say auto tag. It's going to guess, and it's decided this one is dialogue. This one is made of music. So it's actually nailed it. Let's enjoy those sick tunes. Little Schubert for you, I think. Ladies.
I'm vibing.
Yeah, it's a vibe. So... But you'll notice that on music, right, we can't enhance the speech. There's no speech to enhance.
Right, there's no enhance button when you tag it for music.
Exactly. So if you need to tag things, this is the way you do it. You hit auto tag, it'll make its best guess. Now, the one thing I wanted to show is what if you have a clip that has both dialogue, and we're going to go ahead, just clear audio type, auto tag that. It is defaulted to say music. That is mostly music, because when there's conflict between music and dialogue, you know,
it kind of picks the busier one almost.
Exactly, yeah. So that's tagging stuff. We got that going. Let's talk about some other things that are going to help out the community and see how that goes.
Before we move on, real quick question here from Sin Legos. What do you look for when listening to audio to improve it? Is there something that you kind of listen for?
Right. So the things that I'm listening for are background noise, so distracting noise back there, because it's going to reduce clarity in the vocal range, which we must strip that away. But usually what we're doing is we're taking away, low frequencies that are distracting. We're going to take away high frequencies that are distracting. That's going to leave us with the middle zone that is good and listenable. Yeah.
The best part.
Exactly. That sweet middle zone of frequencies.
Okay.
And then at that point, it is about raising some and lowering others, and that's what we're trying to get. So you'll find like a lot of sibilance filters that are going to remove that. Probably hear it in my voice. Yes, these S's.
I won't do it I won't do it too much. Yeah.
Yes. So those are things that we're going to be filtering out as well. But of course, it's really just about clarity and being able to actually
and still having it sound a bit natural and not too robotic, which
exactly.
I feel like that mixing and the enhance button, how you can mix how much to enhance it, it's going to help.
You can if you have a very radio forward voice and you enhance it, you're going to sound like a robot. A robot.
So sound natural. That's step one before you enhance.
Just be yourself, folks. Okay, so
let's get into the next feature.
Okay, so the next one is all about how you start your projects. So these are templates.
I love this one. I feel like sometimes when you're starting a new project, it can be a little bit overwhelming doing the setup.
Yeah.
And this kind of just streamlines it.
Yeah. So up here at the top, you're going to name your project something. You're going to put it somewhere, and then you're going to give it a project template. And you could start with none, which is going to start you with nothing. But instead, there are a few already baked in: broadcaster, social media, standard. And these, you can also save your own, right? So you can save your project as a template. And these, as you can see, these are just prproj things, right? But let's go to the broadcaster template, and let's go ahead and create. I'll just replace an earlier version of that. And you can see over here in the project, it's come in with a bunch of folders. And
it's like pre-made organization, which is amazing for those who don't like to organize. It's doing it for you, so you have no excuses anymore.
Yeah, organize once,
and
you'll never have to again.
And templates, so you can even custom organize, create your own systems, and save it.
And so let's go into one of these sequences. Right, you can see that this is set up 4 mono tracks over here, pow, 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 and then it's already at the frame rate that we want. So this is like a broadcast standard. Let's go File, New Project, and let's instead use the social media template.
I'm excited for these. I really am, because this, honestly, when I see people exporting incorrectly, it hurts my heart a little bit, and I feel like now we all are on the same page.
Right, so let's get on the page. Let's say we're making an Instagram reel. Here's what this sequence looks like, right? So look at all these safe zones, all these margins. You know what's going to get covered up with stuff. These are just 2 tracks that you can poke their eyes out if you want, put things over them, add more tracks on top.
It's like a baseline.
Yeah, and let this be your kind of guide for, well, where should the footage be? Where should the eye lines be? Let this help you.
Yeah, and now you know, like when you're creating captions, I think that's also, sometimes people put the captions too low, because naturally captions do go kind of in the lower third. But here for Instagram Reels, if you don't keep in mind the UI of Instagram, which now in the template it's built in, you can make sure your captions don't get cut off. And you can also keep them in a consistent place, because that way not every single video that you do has the captions in a different location, which can be kind of hard if you're watching a lot of videos.
And we even have here a couple of captioning options if you want to try those out. So we've got
caption styles up there, right?
Some subtle styles down here, or some bolder styles right here. So
I love this. I feel like every time I have to reset them up or kind of bring in my old caption styles, and now I don't have to think about it as hard, and anything that helps me not think as much and just create faster is awesome.
Yeah. So let's talk about some other community things that are going to be pretty helpful as well. So if other people out there work on a Mac, you see we're both we're in the Apple cult in a big way, but so if you're a Mac user, you've probably experienced this type of pain, gamma offset. So the gamma, the thing that you're looking at on your monitor doesn't match what we're sending out into the world. Makes us unhappy.
Yeah.
Right.
Or you just don't think about it.
Yeah. So just about the templates. So for exporting, you could just turn them off, absolutely, or just cover them up. Is the 2 things.
Hide them or turn them off.
Yeah. Poke their little.
You could delete it, but I feel like deleting is extreme.
Destroy those things.
You might want it later.
Yeah. So the next thing we're going to talk about is color. So I'm open up the Lumetri color, and we're going to go next to edit into settings. And this might look pretty new to people. So you've got settings for the preferences, so app, big picture. And then under that we have project, and under that we have the source clip that you have selected. It's named the clip, which is where you could be applying your LUTs in order to get your colors. So use media color space. It's a Rec 709. It's identified it. That's where it is. We come into the sequence. Hey, the sequence is also a Rec 709. Big thumbs up for that. So no conversion is taking place. And then, of course, the clip within the sequence itself might have different things about it that have been changed. So
it's nice that it shows you exactly what's going on.
Yeah, and if you're like, oh, this clip looks weird, why is that? Oh, I need to change its color space, right? So, and if you don't deal with color spaces, congratulations, you're living your best life. But it can be a headache if you're dealing with logarithmic stuff, you're dealing with stuff from your ARRI Alexa cameras, and you're bringing it in, you're shooting raw out there.
But now also in the future, if you decide to start working with color stuff, it's just got a whole lot easier.
Apparently you can shoot log on the new iPhone, so have fun with that. Now, let's get into these top ones. So these are the really interesting ones for me. Display color management. This, when you click this on, it's thinking about what is your display, right? What is this screen?
Right.
How is it sending color? What is it doing to the response curve of color that it's sending? Chad, if you want us to talk about the response curves of color, we can definitely get into that.
Bring your questions here.
However, when we come here under Viewer Gamma, so Gamma is basically remapping black to white values, and are they going to be more contrasty? Are they going to be brighter? Are they going to be darker? That's what we're talking about with Viewer Gamma. And right now we have display color management on, which means we are applying these transformations, and we are correcting, and we're assuming here, right, that someone is watching this back on Gamma 2.4 broadcast. So that's a really specific kind of color standard thing. But let's say we were watching this on the web. Oh, look at that. He got a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
Or what if we were looking at this on a QuickTime environment? He got a little bit lighter again, right? I hope this is transmitting over the cables and stuff, because it is a very display relative thing.
Like even the viewer's current display.
Yeah.
Will be affecting how they're seeing this. But if you use it for yourself on your own computer, you'll understand a little bit better. So you definitely have to play with it.
And then if you're using external monitors, right, we've got the Adobe SRT and those types of things that you want to make sure that, okay, it's going to these places, those things are calibrated and all of that stuff. So it's critical stuff. But now we can perform our display color management transformation. So everything, you're not going to be surprised, right?
Right, when you export. Exactly.
No oopsies.
Because that's the worst. We have to re-export based on just something technical like that. Now you get a way to kind of preview all of that, really play with it, make sure you have it all right before you go to final. And
we used to have to put like an adjustment layer over everything with our transformation LUT to get us...
to get the gamma right, yeah.
So, don't get bombarded by the gamma rays. Get that stuff going the way you want it.
You can now clarify everything.
Yeah. So, and then speaking of color, let's come into the edit zone here. And so our tone mapping has been improved. So if you're familiar with what happens when you smash the auto button, right? It's making a bunch of assumptions about what we're doing, right? And it's analyzing temporally the clip and what's going on with that. But now clicking that button is going to perform slightly different calculations. They're a bit more accurate. And you can see when we dial up and down the intensity here, it's still quite natural what's been happening to our subject here.
Subtle.
Yeah, and of course, like the lighting is not totally extreme or wacky in this situation. So hopefully those are useful ideas for people when you're working with these things, so that you're getting your color right. Okay, so we've got our sounds are sounding right. Our colors
are better. Exporting is better.
Yeah.
Everything is faster.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a great update, and we've got about 5 minutes left here. So I just want to make sure that if you have any questions, bring them on over to YouTube chat or to the Behance chat, and we can make sure we get to them.
Yeah, but of course, like you said, we only have 5 minutes left here. So coming up after us, though, someone will be talking about things that are going on in After Effects, right? So we're going to be talking about some Rotobrush stuff that is coming up next. You're going to be back.
I will be back.
Yeah.
We'll be back.
Well, yeah, both of us. We'll be in different places. I'll probably change my shirt, so you'll think it's a different person. But we're going to talk about text-based editing, which also has been improved. So. Yes. I'm going to get those ums and ahs out of here. We're going to sound so eloquent.
Everything's going to sound so much better.
It's going to be great. And then I'm going to be capping up the day talking about True 3D, which I just wanted to give you a little look-see at what that might look like. You're probably saying, Evan, I've seen three-dimensional stuff. Well, what I'm talking about here is within After Effects, we are going to be enjoying being able to make something like, oh, I don't know, maybe something like this. We'll make this entirely in After Effects.
Wow.
Right? So these are 3D assets that we are actually orbiting and moving around, and they're interacting with each other in 3D space. We're going to make something a little bit like this, where we... Little bust of Marcus Aurelius here. Thank you, British Museum.
You made that yourself.
Oh, yeah. I took 100 photos of this priceless antiquity. No. Just like a lot of the royalty-free footage that you've seen us experiment in here, you can get a lot of this stuff it's all Creative Commons licensed. It's all open licensed stuff. So you don't have to hurt yourself trying to get the materials to play around with. Archive.org. Go there. Go to check out like the British Museum or the Smithsonian, and they have some great. Anyway, we'll talk about.
I love getting those tips, guys. Write that down, because for your next project, sometimes you need some assets, and that was secret tips right there that you didn't expect to get.
Yeah. You don't even know what's going to be happening. Yeah, I had to go chisel that myself, man. It was rough. But we're gonna be doing some very interesting stuff that can be done. It's a little bit spooky for Halloween, right? So this is the kind of stuff that we're going to be kind of wrapping up the show with. I'm trying to think other things that are worth sort of getting into. We've got a sheet of excellent things that we should probably talk about on here. We've enhanced the speech. We've talked about custom export locations. We can talk about that a little bit.
Let's touch that real quick. I mean, there's so much in this new update, and I feel like it's very useful.
We've forgotten a very important person who's not in the room. It's Frame.io. So we mustn't forget our friends Frame.io. So there's been some updates to that. So one, camera to cloud is coming to a lot more devices. So that's pretty critical. So a lot of new like Fuji things are going to have camera to cloud on them. A lot of your capture devices are going to have this camera to cloud powers on it. The other thing is comparison view. So I've been doing this.
Very handy when you're working with clients, different versions, or even just reviewing back anything that you have. So this new feature is really going to streamline some of that for you, and we're going to show it here.
Oh, well, maybe we would if I was.
Or maybe we would.
If I was on the internet,
no.
We beefed that one. So here's what you do, though, right? We're going to go into our...
So follow along, and it'll work perfectly for you.
Yeah. So we go to our kind of... No, I have to sign into the review panel. Guys, not good. You know what we're going to do?
A lot of things happen.
When we come back, we're going to...
That's solving when we're live.
Well, we're going to be back in like an hour. So we're going to be catching it then. But just so you know, this stuff is... You're going to be able to compare two things right next to each other. You're going to draw on them. We're going to work up something beautiful, and then look
different video versions as well as different media, different file types. So it can be audio, PDF, video, comparison view with different comparison views with different file types is what I'm trying to get at, which wasn't possible before.
It's true. Actually, we could. Oh, maybe we can actually get on.
So that is some really cool stuff, because otherwise you'd have to kind of view them independently. And you guys know how clunky these things can be, especially when you're kind of sending the files off to different people and trying to get some feedback that makes sense and that you're actually correcting the things that you meant to correct.
Yeah.
Let's see. We've got about two minutes here, I think. He's signing in as fast as possible.
I know.
All the details are
Put me
showing
to
up.
the test.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
All right. Wonderful. I love this update. I feel like there's a lot of little things that are really just speeding things up for you. And if you haven't adopted a lot of these things, like let's say you don't pay attention to sound that much, now's the time to get into sound, because with the enhance button, it's kind of like a one-stop shop, a quick way to get your audio just improved without having to be a total expert like Evan is. It's good to learn from experts, but you can apply it however you'd like. So definitely try it out. And I'm very excited for my stream in a little bit to show you more about the text-based editing improvements, which we didn't get to touch on today, but we've got about a minute left.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is going to happen, Evan.
Hold on. I'm almost there. I'm hacking the mainframe right now.
We're in, guys. We're in to show you the quickest Frame.io comparison view you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah. So we grab our multiple assets and then we say compare them. Now, of course, comparison is usually the thief of joy, but today it will be the bringer of joy.
We love it. Today you need to compare.
Right. So we can play them both at the same time.
And see what...
Perfect.
You can choose which audio you're seeing, and we can come in here and say, like, we're gonna just edit some of the stuff about one of them, or...
Yeah, with that little brush button.
I might come over here and I'm going to draw.
Great. Well, Evan, thank you so much for showing us all of these new Premiere Pro updates. Stay tuned for the rest of the streams. We've got an amazing day here on Adobe Live, and you'll see us soon.
Yeah.
See you later, guys.
We'll be back real soon.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Adobe Live. My name is Paco Siller. I am the lead content producer for Adobe Live, and I'm here with my good friend Ryan Selvy.
That's me. Hi, guys. How's it going?
Yeah, this is Ryan. So if you know Ryan, he's actually been in the live streaming space quite a while. So even before you joined Adobe Live, you used to go live on Behance.
Yep.
Or even maybe before that, you did more live streaming?
Yeah, and just doing all things illustration, motion graphics, you name it. Just pipe into that live stream pipeline.
Yeah, he actually hosts Offset Week here on Adobe Live, where he takes over an entire week. But anyways, I am here with Ryan for the next hour. We're going to be talking about the new Rotobrush feature in After Effects. And then Ryan's going to take it away with all that. So before we get into that, just do want to say hi to the chat. I see everybody there. I see Valder, Alejandro, Sin, Katrina, Umacorn, Paula. I see all Behance. I also have YouTube chat right here on my machine. So feel free to say hi. Let us know where you're tuning in from. And again, this is an open community. It's a safe space. If you have any questions about anything that we're doing, please go ahead and ask it in the chat. I'm going to be looking at it. So this is why we're live. It's a two-way engagement. Just let us know if you have any questions and if you want to learn anything or just want to say hey. So enough about that. Brian, what do we have in store for today?
We're looking at some Rotobrush 3 today, which
Rotobrush 3.
Very exciting. If you guys have been in After Effects over the last few years, you've probably used Rotobrush for any flurry of reasons, but maybe you have to bring in something and you have a client that you need to cut something out and it wasn't filmed on green screen, but you still need to bring it out of the footage and you want to put it on top of something else. And it's gotten slowly better over time, but with this new version of Rotobrush 3, it's actually implementing artificial intelligence, which helps bring it to the next level.
AI.
I know.
It's like everywhere.
It's the theme of the year is artificial intelligence. And this is for the one that you definitely were like, if artificial intelligence was going to do anything for me, Rotobrush was going to be one of the things that I was waiting for.
Yes, it's going to make our life easier. Before you do that, let's cut to the shot of us. I want to fix some display settings because I see it's not optimized for the live stream. So let me go ahead and do this tech stuff. While I do this, what is it? Everybody tell us where you're from while I do this.
And also tell us what you have Rotobrushed in your life.
Yeah. Let's see. Is there a way to make this 16 by 9? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
So let's see. Okay, let's see. I think there is a way to optimize it to scale 16 by 9. If not, then we're just gonna boogie on with this live stream, so we don't take off any more time. But it might be display resolution.
Jeff says hello from Brooklyn. That's where I normally am, but I'm out on the West Coast today.
So I changed it to 1920 by 1080. Let me know if this affects. Here, go back to the screen share. Let's see if that fixes it. Aha! Look at that, doing tech stuff on the live stream. I can't escape it. Oh, it reverted back. Okay, so I know what to do. Let's go back to your display settings one more time.
Yeah, sure.
Right, and then we want to change this to 1920 by 1080, and we actually want to keep the changes. Boom. Okay, cool. So that will do it. All right, let's get into it.
Brought to you by my display settings. All right, guys, welcome back into After Effects. I am on the most recent beta of Adobe After Effects, so if you're not seeing this in your program, it's probably because you're in the actual official build right now, but this will be coming to official builds in no time. But we have a few different pieces of footage that I went ahead and pulled out, and I was trying to think of things that you guys would be working on in your own workflows. And so if you have any questions as we go through things, please let me know. But I thought a really good place to start would be with this artisan jeweler being interviewed in front of her studio. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag and drop that into a new project. And it has, just a simple kind of walkthrough. She's talking about something. You guys don't have audio. Don't worry about it. It's not important.
Need audio. Nope.
She's just saying she loves Adobe Live.
She does. She's saying hi to everybody in the chat.
Yeah,
she's saying hi to Penny. Annika, we got Annika in the chat. What's up, Annika? Good to see you.
She loves the shirt. Thank you very much.
It's a great looking shirt.
It doesn't have green in it. We had to make sure there was no green.
It doesn't. Yeah. If you have green, we're just going to be transparent. So
we are going to be working predominantly in After Effects for the next hour, but there was one thing that an own personal project of mine that I actually had to do recently for a project, and it was I didn't have a slate for the back of something that I needed to Rotobrush out because I knew that I needed to remove the subject and be able to move the subject around, but I didn't have an actual shot of just the shot without the subject in it. So over on Photoshop now, it is in the official build that you can go in and you can actually use the generative AI to actually remove objects. So we're going to do this just really quickly. We don't need to be precious about it, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a little lasso pull around. And there's lots of different ways you can do this. You could do select subject, you could do the pen tool, you can do whatever. But just for this case, we're going to be able to go in here and pull around a generative fill.
There we go, easy peasy.
There we go. Where are you? Oh, maybe because we're in a weird thing. There we go.
Yeah, unlock that layer.
Let's
get it filled up.
So speaking of it, I said that we could do it in multiple different ways. So we're going to do it in multiple different ways.
Okay.
So,
Select subject. There it is. Yeah, this is. I got into Photoshop late in the game, so I guess with you using the lasso tool, was that the way you used to do it? The traditional way. I noticed people that have done it a certain way, they still stick to that way.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, like Ryan said, there are many ways to do it. No right or wrong way answers. I'd say there's more efficient ways to do things, especially with all these new features coming out.
Yeah.
But they all get to the same result.
The same result. Now, this might not be giving me the actual generative fill on here, so I might actually need to flip over to my. I'm gonna have to flip over to my beta Photoshop. So give me 1 second. We're gonna switch out of here.
No worries.
This is why you guys should always update your programs, because see, I have 2023, 2024, and beta. So you know you can always click on the wrong thing. Wade's in the chat. Hey Wade.
What's up, Wade?
And get to see the cool little opening. But basically, you don't necessarily have to do this. There's actually even a way that you can go into After Effects and you can have content-aware fill for a piece in After Effects, and that's really great too. It's just a means of actually I like using the AI of it, because obviously the AI is going to make up different objects rather than just using the surrounded area, because in the past, Generative Fill would just try to extend things based off of what you have, whereas AI is actually looking at the whole subject and trying to create something that is a solution for it. So just like anything else, there's millions of different ways to do the same things, but in this case, it is just helpful for us.
Nice. All right, so we're using select subject again.
Yep.
There it is.
It's not working with me. Let's see here. Give it a second. There we go.
There it is. Boom.
All right, and then I just like to go to select, modify. I like to expand it at least a little bit, so I'll do like 5 pixels, maybe even 10 pixels even, really, because then it gives us more of like leniency to really work with it. So then we'll just go to Generative Fill. Agree with what you've got going on here. And since we don't really need to put anything in particular in there, we don't have to put a text prompt in, we can just go to generate.
Right, so by selecting nothing or typing in nothing, it's just gonna get rid of it and think what it thinks is best.
And it'll give us a few options too, so we could actually slide through and we can see what it's going to do. But even right off the bat, like, we have to remember that there's gonna be something in front of it the entire time anyway.
They did a pretty good job. Like gave handles to that, what it thought was a cabinet.
Yeah.
That's one way to do it.
So we can either have like a... This is feeling a little bit more sci-fi, like that. Yeah. Is that a balloon?
Oh, wait, did it generate that?
Yeah.
That's right, she wasn't there.
No.
So I guess in jewelry shops, you just always need to have a balloon somewhere.
I'm here for it. But all right, I'm feeling this one though. I feel like this one's the most subtle.
I love that it just brought a balloon. I kind of...
yeah, we need to use the balloon.
We need the balloon at this point. Yeah, just bring the balloon.
So I'm going to merge it all down. Then we'll go ahead and we'll save it somewhere. I'm just going to put it in here under Rotobrush 3, and then we'll save it. And we'll save it as it goes. And so now we have this piece of content that we can then go back into After Effects, and we can actually plop it on down into the same composition. And if we flip it on and off, we essentially remove her and bring her back in.
There it is. Look at that.
Now, we're going to be using Rotobrush, though, to remove her. And so what we got to do is right now we're in the composition. Actually, we should save our work before we even start, because you don't want to be working on anything that means anything to you. And your computer might lose power or something, or, you know, you never know what can happen. So we'll just say Rotobrush and save it. That way it has a place to go back and autosave and start the whole process of having After Effects.
Yep. Always save your folk, or always save folks. Gotta save that work.
Now, what we have here is we have her talking for a little bit, and we're in the composition, but when you work with Rotobrush, you may know that you have to go in and you have to double-click actually into the layer. And you'll see that it then opens up over here into the layer piece, and we still have the composition over here, and we have the layer. But with that, we can then actually hop into Rotobrush, which is right here. And once we hop into the layer, we can then start to actually just do a quick little... Oh, and it's already telling us you're not in full resolution. We're in quarter, and if you go to full, it's going to give you better results,
right?
Because that way it can actually reference the full image.
We have people in the chat also saying that we should go with the balloon option, so I'm glad we did that.
We did the right thing.
We did the right thing. The people want the balloon.
Thank you, Sunil. So she's looking at her own jewelry. And you don't have to be precious about this. The cool new thing about the new Rotobrush is that it's really good at actually working with not only hair, but it also works with really good like limbs. So if you're like this in the past, like maybe right here would be harder, but with the new Rotobrush, it's going to be able to identify that and work with being able to identify that is a spot in between that you don't want. So with Rotobrush, one of the things that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make the first frame as accurate as possible. That way, you're not giving any false information to the system to say that you want something when you don't.
And just for folks who maybe haven't used the Rotobrush before, what are you hitting to go from plus and minus?
That is a great point. Thank you. So there's a few things that we can do. First, to even get into the Rotobrush, you're going to want to, you can do either up here at the top, or you can do Alt-W, and that is the keyboard shortcut to get started with Rotobrush. But then what you can also do is there's a few different ways you can adjust your brush. So one thing is going to automatically be on add, and what you can do is if you hold down Alt, you'll see that it changes to red, and that means that you'll be taking out. So green is add, red is take away.
So that's on Windows. On Mac, I think the equivalent is either Command or Option. We'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
But it's Alt on Windows, and that's how you're able to toggle between adding or subtracting from the brush.
Also, something that's really helpful is if you're holding down Control and you click and drag, you can bring up and down the size of your brush, which is the most convenient for you. Normally when you start, you're going to want to have a little bit of a bigger one, but for these detail ones, you're going to want to go in and maybe bring it down a little bit lower. Annika is saying Alt equals Option and Command equals Control.
There it is. Annika saving the day. So there it is. So Alt on Windows, Command on Mac.
And then so next, there's another thing that you can do also for brush as well, and that's if you want to go in, you can actually open up the brushes panel. And if you don't see that, you can just go to your window and then open brushes. I'm going to actually take it out of here and just put it on top so we can see it. But you have full control over a brush. You're really only going to need like a circle kind of standard brush, but if you want to mess with the diameter there, you can also do that if you don't want to be buried in the keyboard shortcuts. But if you update that, it will also update accordingly in your piece as well. But right now what we're going to do is we're just going to continue to kind of go ahead and single her out and make sure that we have everything as good as possible. Oops. All right.
It's wanting you to save. All right. Well,
we're just going to give it a quick little restart. It got a little upset with me because I decided to mess with the brushes panel. So we're going to open back up in here.
Cool. And then Sunil's saying everything saves time when you know the shortcuts. I agree, my friend. The more you are in these apps and the more you live in them, there used to be days where I would live in After Effects for, like 8, 9, 10 hours a day. And honestly, those shortcuts do add up. I mean, even if it takes a couple seconds, think about being in those apps for days at a time, 5 days out a week, clicking around. I mean, those seconds can add up to hours. So the more you use an app and the more you see yourself doing one of the features over and over and over, just make a shortcut for it. Sometimes there's default shortcuts. If there isn't, feel free to make a custom shortcut, and I guarantee you it's going to make your workflow so much snappier and so much faster.
Yeah, and also with the new Rotobrush, speaking of saving time, it is something that, like, in the past, it has been so exhaustingly long for having to go ahead and pull everything out. But with the new update, it's actually using artificial intelligence and is pulling it out, so you don't have to worry so much about frame by frame. And instead, it is something that just continuously is referencing a whole database of information outside of your computer that it can then apply to your own work. So this is going to just take a little bit second just to hop with our GPU real quick, and then we should be able to hop back in.
Yeah, and in the meantime, while that waits, I'm going to try and pull up the blog that shows all the features that are available with the new Premiere Pro and After Effects release. So let me plug it in.
After that, it makes your work like seconds. Yes, the better you know the keyboard shortcuts, the better. There's a new version available. See, that'll do it. So you guys keep it on up. Must have been released today because I definitely updated last night. Yeah. So thank you, Adobe.
We're snappy here at Adobe.
Yep.
New versions, churning them out.
All right, so let's hop back into here real quick.
Cool.
Sorry for all the hiccups, guys.
All good.
When it rains, it pours for me. You know.
That's when you know it's live.
Yep.
You know, we don't have the luxury of cutting out all these things. It's when you know that things are happening live. As we were saying, we'll do it live.
That's like yesterday, or not yesterday. On Monday, I woke up for. Oh, oops.
Oh my God.
Oops.
That's kind of great. Yeah. So a balloon and a face.
Balloon and a face.
That's all we need for this video.
No, I woke up on Monday ready to get the week started, and my computer didn't turn on at all.
That's fun. Wait, I remember you telling me that, actually. Did you get that figured out?
Yeah, to bring to the computer shop, and there's a great guy in Brooklyn. He got it to work for me, but
awesome.
Not a good feeling when your technology is not cooperating with you.
You kind of don't realize how much you need until it doesn't work. You're like, you had one job. Just turn on.
Oops, didn't mean to do that.
All right, cool. So we're going ahead and roto-brushing out our subject, which is our interviewee.
Yep.
And then we are kind of picking the areas that we want roto-brush to say, hey, keep this in frame, and then taking out the ones we don't want to by switching from plus and minus.
Oh, and I keep doing backwards when I'm not meaning to.
Here we are taking out the areas that we don't want Rotobrush to keep in the mask.
And also with this, you'll see that we're getting into a complicated area here with the hair, and we're going to come back in here in just a second to adjust that with the refine.
There's a cool new feature now that comes with hair and Rotobrush, and you're going to see how great it works.
And so we're first going to just do a generic pull through of just the regular matte. And then we'll go from there to then show the refinement of it as well. So what we have here is, since we're in the Rotobrush tool, you can see down here on the bottom that we're going to have a different viewpoint for showing where we have the Rotobrush. And the way that you can actually just move forward and backwards in Rotobrush is you can use Control, and then you can use the left arrows and the right arrows to kind of move forward and backwards. So we're right at the front. I like to personally, when I am in Rotobrush, press I to go to my endpoint. You can also go to the endpoint with O, but I always like to press I before I start, just to make sure that I'm started at a place where we have the information, and then we can tell the Rotobrush to continue moving forward. If you have a piece of content where it's coming onto the frame or going off of the frame, you're going to want the frame with your subject fully in frame. So maybe in that instance, you're not going to press I for the endpoint. But in this case, since we have the subject in frame the entire time, we're just going to start there. So I'm going to press Control and go to the side with the arrows, and we're going to just slowly move along. And she's going to kind of also move, and it's going to propagate as it moves along. After Effects makes a segmentation boundary between the foreground and the background in order to do this. So that's all it's kind of going to be doing. You can also go through and you can press the space bar and maybe continue. You can also go ahead and you can drag this blue slider if you want, but maybe just call me anxious or just particular. I like to at least kind of see how it starts off at the beginning to see if it's going to go off the rails or not.
Right. And what we're doing here is frame by frame, we're making sure that boundary line, the purple one, pink one, we're making sure that it's actually masked around the subject that we want. So with Ryan going frame by frame, sometimes, in the past, the Rotobrush can kind of jump somewhere else. And then we want to fix that because we want to make sure that it propagates. It's a fancy way of saying that each frame, it's true to the mask that we want it, to the brush, to the Rotobrush.
That's right.
So right now it's doing a pretty darn good job. I mean, it's staying within our subject and it's not jumping anywhere. So yeah, this new Rotobrush is killing it.
All right, and so I guess what we'll do is we'll just take a leap of faith. We're going to press that space
bar. When you hit spacebar, you don't have to go frame by frame, and it's just going to do it all automatically. And look at that. Look at that magic. Working. So this is the brush propagating right now.
Oh, but see, we see right there that there's this little spot here where it's actually starting to do that cool new thing that I'm mentioning about how it's a little bit better with the absence and the negative space of your limbs. But sometimes it'll kind of hop in because it's noticing the dark spots in between her arm. And I keep pressing Alt when I should be pressing Control. Yes. And so we're going to add that spot right back in. And then it takes that information and it says, oh, okay, sorry, my bad. Like, I figured it out. We're good. And then you can kind of continue again.
Yeah, we're guiding the Rotobrush in the right direction.
It's actually doing pretty fast, too.
Right. And is this spacebar action?
This is some spacebar action.
Yeah, no hands.
And we actually don't even have to do this full spot of her if you guys don't want to watch this happen the whole time. But it's actually moving pretty quickly, so we might not even need to.
Yeah, and it's good. And this is the magic of Rotobrush. If you weren't using the Rotobrush, then manually you draw a mask. There's many, again, like we said in Photoshop, there's many ways to mask out something. You could do the tracking tool. You'd have to go masking frame by frame. But it's just getting easier these days, folks. The Rotobrush works its magic, and it's just making our workflows a lot easier so that you can mask something out. We have 24 frames per second, 30 frames per second in a timeline. Think about doing 24 frames of masking out. Rotobrush does all that magic for us just by hit and play and letting it do its thing. And of course, it's just kind of checking in periodically to make sure that it really is keeping true to that mask and the subject.
Yeah, and we're actually just going to cut it short because it's more or less you guys are going to see the same thing here, and I don't want to have to make you guys wait too long. Sin, to answer your question real quick about the PNG, you don't need to have the PNG. I like to have the PNG there in this case because I want to have little movement in the background. And I'll show you guys that just in a second. But the PNG is not actually helping the Rotobrush. It's instead giving us a background. And that background could be anything. It could be fire. It could be, she could be underwater. It's just a way of like simulating a background if you weren't to have a slate. So now that we have that, you can see that the whole thing is green. If we hit freeze, that's going to actually take the cache and it's going to actually lock it into place so that the system isn't actually going through every single time and doing the work over and over again. It's just instead saying, oh, okay, like I have the boundaries and the parameters that you gave for me for the segmentation. And then we can also then go in here to the side and we can do some refinements and other things, and it will update the area of the mat that we already have.
Right.
But it'll take a second to actually flip through.
Yeah, so make sure when you like the Rotobrush or what it did, freeze it, to commit it, and it'll make the workflow easier. And then looking at the chat, I see we got Alex Hogue in the chat. Welcome, my friend. Alex Hogue is a very talented editor, director of photography, works in the video space. He's done quite a bit of live streams with us, so welcome. I also see Marco coming in. So what's up, everybody? Thank you all for joining us. Yeah. And real quick, if we hop onto my screen, I'll just while we wait for this to render. Here is kind of a blog post that's outlined. Oh, hold on a second. Oh, Paco, studio manager, needs to figure out his tech stuff. Oh, hold on a second. I just need to make sure my display is mirrored.
And Randy, yes, the replay will be available both on YouTube and you can also find it on the Behance tab as well. For all of your rotoscoping needs.
All right, I think that will work. So let's go back to my screen. Night shift. Look at that. Studio manager, telling studio manager what to do. I love it. Okay, so this is kind of a blog post outlining all the things that are coming out with these updates, right? So if you watched the previous stream with Fabiola and Evan, they were looking at enhanced speech, which is a crazy feature. This works magic. All right, so take a minute to go through this blog, watch these videos, and it's just making our jobs very easy on set. There was always the thing, we'll fix it in post, and we always kind of rolled our eyes working in video production. It's like, no, let's get it right in camera, but you can kind of fix a lot of things in post now, Yeah,
no, it's
but, it's not a substitute. Don't tell your producers that. It's by no means a substitute on set, but it can save your skin just with the amount of stuff that it can help you out. So enhanced speech, text-based improvements, So we're going to be going over this with the schedule. So let's throw up the schedule real quick just to kind of show you all what else is coming up on the stream. But it's kind of all these features that we're covering. So we kind of did a high-level overview of what's new in Adobe Video. Right now we're looking at the Rotobrush. Then we'll look at text-based editing, true 3D compositing for VFX, and then we'll close it out with office hours with Andrew and Nick. All right, cool. So let's head back to Ryan's screen because it looks like it's been rendered. And,
And so I forgot actually while we were working on this that there's a few different ways that you can go and you can preview how your rotoscope is working. Like obviously we have this nice magenta, very clear outline that normally you're going to be able to see. But like let's say you're working on like a pink background or you're working on something that is a little bit harder to see that discerned, division. There's these different settings you have down here. You can change the alpha boundary color if you want to. So like, let's say we want to make it like an orange or something. You can always change that. That's not going to be in your final, by the way. If you have a piece of work, like you're never going to see this boundary. This boundary is purely just for your reference and for you to be able to see. But what you can also do is you can toggle on alpha and it'll show you the different matte, and everything that is actually being connected is going to be in white, and everything that's going to be subtracted is going to be in black. You have this one as well where it can actually turn on and off the boundary behind it without it being white. It'll actually just show you kind of what you're having here. And then you can also even go in here and you can change this color and it'll show a little overlay of how it's going to look behind everything. This is really good if you want to have a clearer understanding, but also being able to see the background. But in my experience, what I've also done is if I know that I'm going to like be putting her on like an underwater layer, I know that I don't have to be as precious, because when I add blue, I can notice that maybe something on her hair on the side here that looks a little bit janky when it's on red doesn't look that janky when it's on blue, which is going to be what's my background. So it's really project to project. It depends on what you want to have. And kind of just what you want it to look like. But you do have some accessibility in being able to change it. Now, as we go here and we're looking at her kind of cut out, we are noticing that there are some changes around here with her hair. Now, you can always go in here with your Rotobrush matte and you can change the feather and the contrast, you can shift the edge, you can reduce the chatter, and those are all things that are actually going to be very helpful, and we'll probably touch them in a second. But what we really want to do here is we want to go to the Refine Edge tool, and all you do for that is you just click in and you can drag down to get to the Refine tool. You'll see that this one has a little action figure, and this one even is showing you that it's working better with hair or rough edges. And so since we're in that tool, it's going to work pretty much identical to the way that we had Rotobrush. And there's a few things that are happening here. It's going to tell us that we can't do anything because we already froze it. And the reason we froze it, I just wanted you guys to kind of see what it looks like. We can play it through, and it'll show that she's moving, and that we have kind of this boundary. And it does a pretty good job, actually, of even doing some updates to it that are not there otherwise when it's actually just frozen. It's doing some work for us. But as we go through here, we can still go in, and I want to just fix her hair a little bit more. And maybe we don't have to, but we can, so we will.
We can, and so we shall.
So once we do that, what we're going to have to do if we want to make edits is you can make these edits on the side without unfreezing it. But if you want to use something like the Refine Brush tool, or you want to actually change what is actually being seen and in the matte, you have to unfreeze it. But that's okay, because all you have to do is, I'm just going to go back to the beginning again. I'm just going to hit freeze again, and it lets us go back in.
Right.
And you can tell that now our cursor is no longer kind of like a little cross through, and it's got that cross to say that we can actually go in here and edit it. Now, previously with the Rotobrush, where we were going and we were just kind of doing a generic slash through to say this is the subject that we want. In this area, we're going to be saying this is the area we want to maybe spend a little bit more attention and detail into the finer parts of cutting this out. So you're not going to actually be going over the entire subject in this case. Instead, we're going to go across the edge where we want extra attention. Now, mind you, I at home also sometimes use a tablet for these moments because you can have control over it. But I'm going to kind of show off my trackpad skills right now.
Mad lad. Mad lad using the trackpad.
And you'll see that it gives us this new view, which is really helpful because then it also shows us what the computer is seeing and how it is identifying the area that we say, hey, this is a little bit more complicated. And it's understanding that it's taking into effect what we have already addressed as the mat and the area for it. And it's saying, okay, this is what is part of it and this is what's not part of it. What can we kind of feather and kind of figure out? Because if you remember, we do have this background, but the computer still is understanding that we're saying that her head here is different from this light. So you'll notice that over here in this area where her head is hitting the light, it's not highlighting the light in white, even though we know that the white is there, because the system is able to kind of see that and be able to identify it as a different, more complicated area where we want her hair. So what we're going to do is, once again, we're going to kind of play through, and it's going to continue to edit it, and it's going to kind of update it and continue to propagate that language. If there is something that you want to adjust, there is also over here this refine edge mat where you can smooth, feather, contrast, shift edge, shadow reduction as well. And we'll be going over that in just a second because we'll be using another piece of footage as well. But I just want to show you guys how this one works. This one's pretty straightforward. And the new After Effects Rotobrush AI will just say, cool, I understand what you're trying to do.
Cool. So I just want to do a quick time check. We got about 26 minutes left. So yeah, let's see the results of this one and then maybe move on to one of the more fine examples you got.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think this one's perfectly fine. We got some fine hair going on.
Some fine hair rotoscoping going on, yeah.
Do you guys
I'm excited to see the results.
Do you guys have any Rotobrush questions for yourself? Is there anything that you guys have been working on that you've been using Rotobrush? Actually, if there's anyone in chat that has Rotobrushed anything recently, I would love to hear what you guys are Rotobrushing and what you kind of are being able to creatively explore with the idea of being able to cut things out and not having to do it manually.
Yes, let us know. Have you used it before? Is this your first time doing it? Or are you going to try it after seeing Ryan's amazing examples of it? I mean, it just, again, it makes life so much easier instead of having to do frame by frame masking. So yeah, can be a lifesaver.
Don also says, thank you. It's nice to be seen. Yeah. Agreed.
What's up, Don Hayes?
I love to be seen as well.
Yeah. We
Thanks
see
for being
you.
in the chat.
Yes.
And also, I missed a little bit earlier. Where was everyone tuning in from? Was there anyone tuning in from anywhere cool?
Yeah, let us know. I can scroll back too and see. So you have someone in the chat saying we come such a long way from getting wrist pain rotating each frame.
Amen to that, man.
Preach, my friend.
When originally we were setting up this live stream, I was telling Paco, I was like, I normally get so cranky with Rotobrush, but ever since it's been updated, I was playing around with it, and I was like, oh my gosh, it actually everything just works so seamlessly that I don't really get cranky with it anymore. My wrist doesn't hurt, and it just does what it needs to do without much modification at all.
Yeah. We got people saying they haven't used it, but they're interested in checking it out.
Oklahoma,
New
Austin,
Orleans,
Texas.
I can think of a few ways this will help my drone footage. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to see how you can kind of adjust your drone footage with that.
Yeah, Vancouver, British Columbia. Nice. Thank you all for joining us. Welcome, welcome. We're live from San Francisco.
Woo!
It is about 65 degrees here. Nice and
it was chilly
coastal.
when I got in yesterday, though. I'll tell you
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It's funny. People think that San Francisco is a California destination town, so they come with sandals and flip-flops, but that is just not how the weather is here at all over the summer. We got a phenomenon called Carl the Fog, and the fog cools down things a lot here. So it's usually not really the...
Wait, why is it Carl?
That's just what it's called.
Everyone
Carl the
says,
Fog.
Is that you, or is that everyone?
No, it's a thing. Like, if you look up Carl the Fog, that's what it's called in San Francisco.
Oh, good to know. Now I can be a local.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Randy is asking, since he's new to the party, is it available for Premiere Pro? It's not in Premiere Pro, but you can seamlessly link your projects with dynamic link between Premiere Pro and After Effects, which is really easy. All you have to do is you would isolate the section on Premiere Pro using maybe like a cutout tool with like the razor, and then you would just right click it and say replace with After Effects composition. It will open up After Effects. It'll ask where you want to save it on your system, and then it will automatically make updates so that when you rotoscope it in After Effects and then you save it and you go back to Premiere, it'll automatically make that link,
right?
And then you have it in Premiere. So like yes and no.
Yeah. Since asking Carl the Fog, yes, but Carl with a K. So
Oh, really?
Yeah, Carl. Yeah, it's got a Twitter account. Yeah, that's just what it is.
Is that like new, or is that just?
No, it's been around for a while. It's just like one of those. It's you can pass the local vibe check. It's
I know.
like,
I'm not passing it right now.
You know about Carl. Well, no, you know now.
Now I know.
So next time when we're out in town, be like, hey, you guys know Carl? They're like, oh, dude, you must be from here. Yeah.
Although I don't know why I made San Francisco sound like surfers, but it's okay.
Let's see.
So we're freezing this real quick, and then I promise we'll move on to something else.
Okay.
And then we'll pop in. I have a really exciting footage of a kitten for you guys. So
kittens.
Make sure you stick
We love
around.
kittens here, and I have seen this footage.
Yeah.
It is an adorable cat. It's hard to see it and not be like, oh. And everybody's got their pet voice, like, oh, would you look at a kitty?
Yeah, the entire second half of this stream, I'll just be talking like this all the time.
Look at your little fuzzy kitty with the Rotobrush.
Oh, wow. So Alex has been in San Francisco for 15 years.
Alex, I didn't know you lived there for so long, my friend. I knew you're a PNW guy, but I didn't know you spent some time in San Francisco.
Also,
Yeah, now they're saying California with a K.
Oh, gosh, no.
We got people tuning in from Turkey. Yes, thank you for joining us, my friend.
Oh, and Randy's saying that using masking in Premiere Pro is not much fun frame by frame.
No,
Yes.
that's why you should try the Rotobrush in After Effects.
And it also depends really on your system of how fast it's going to go. Like, obviously, this is on a laptop, and don't get me wrong, I love this guy. But when I'm doing this also on my tower with maybe like a stronger GPU or CPU, it can also go a lot faster as well. So it can, all things considered, it works pretty fast no matter what you kind of are using it on. But if you also have the stuff to soup up your system, you won't be sitting here taking as long, and you can also maybe catch up on some emails.
So we have a question from YouTube asking, how do you set up the span for Rotobrush, and how does this span work? Do you know what they mean by span?
I don't know what you mean by span.
Yeah, I'm not sure I recognize what you mean by span, Roland. So if you can clarify in the chat, my friend, may be able to answer that for you.
I think maybe it might be in reference, and this might just be a leap, but the idea of like the span of time in between actually like having where you want it in the clip from the beginning and the end. And if you actually just go into your composition and you have the ins and outs as you would normally, it'll update it. And then you also have these brackets down here that are saying this is the area that I want to have Rotobrush activated in. And you can actually click and drag those left and right, and it'll bring in and out the time that you need. So we've got our Rotobrush propagation nice and frozen for us. So now if we hop back out, it'll update it. Ignore that.
I kind of wish it just did the face.
Yeah, right.
So we just had that.
And we can make it invisible. And look at that hair now. Look, it's so
let's zoom
seamless.
in on that a little bit. Let's see.
We can zoom in. Sure.
Look at that. It did a pretty good job. It did. I mean, you saw how rough the edge was.
Yeah.
But now it's nice and feathered. And obviously, when we have a slate in the background, it's going to look pretty seamless.
And also,
look
let's
at
say
that.
that maybe
So
you
good.
don't have that seamless slate. Like maybe you have to put it in front of something else. There are a few things that you can do. And even though it's frozen now, you can even go in and you can do something like you can reduce the chatter by bringing it up a little bit. Or you can also maybe shift the edge. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll bring it down just a little bit. It'll kind of crop everything in just the slightest amount. And then you can also bring up the feather, which will go and it'll kind of blur those edges for you just ever so slightly. If we're specifically paying attention to the area where we refine the refine edge mat, that's going to have a whole another section of edits down here where you can maybe once again shift that edge just a little bit and you'll see it updates. Maybe you want to turn on some chatter reduction and maybe you can say it's more detailed. You can also work on the idea of the contrast, and if you want to bring it up and kind of have it have a stronger decision between the two, you can automatically already see that it's already starting to mess with that. And considering that this is frayed hair, no disrespect to her, I'm sure her split ends are great, but there are ways that you can go and kind of smooth it out and make it feel way more cohesive with the piece. Also, you see down here, I have this snail activated, which is showing me the render time, which shows that maybe if there's a little piece of work that you have that is taking longer time for your project to render or preview, that helps you so you can turn it on and off. But all things considered, look at that. We can even do it. Okay, so like maybe the whole reason we had her cut out is because we wanted her center frame. And then you can move her center frame now.
Look at that. So we can see the balloon.
And so you can see the balloon.
Is very important in this. So we want to make sure we see the balloon in this interview.
And now, actually, also, since we have already kind of cut her out, I can bring it down to quarter resolution, and then that way it'll make it a little bit easier on my system so that I can get the full idea of like what's going on without it having to work so much and have as much time kind of working on with the Rotobrush. And so you'll see it's kind of making its way along. But this gives you the opportunity. You could also maybe add like a name behind it or something else that is a little bit more complex. And then you can also add special effects to maybe the background or
So that's one of the benefits of being able to cut out our subjects. Now we can implement things behind it in between. And it seems like something maybe simple that we did, but when you start adding those production elements like lower thirds, graphics are behind it. It's those little things that add up and really kind of increase the production value of this interview, and it's all all thanks to the Rotobrush that's able to just cut it out so seamless. Look at that.
Look, yeah, and so
and we got a balloon.
And we got the balloon now. Yeah. But then so now it kind of seems like she's been there the whole time. There is a little bit of chatter there, but that's also because we're on quarter resolution. If we were going to full, it'll actually figure it out and it will kind of calm it down. You can see it's a smoother edge. But I don't want to make you guys just look at an interview the entire time. I promised a kitten. We're gonna get you to a kitten.
We're gonna get a kitten. So we got about time check. We got about 15 minutes. So let's get some kittens.
We're on a time
here.
crunch, but Rotobrush, it'll never be able to do this. It'll never happen.
With Rotobrush 3 and the new improvements.
What? We will. All right. So let's just do a quick look at this.
Okay, but let's look at it in all its glory first. Look at this cute kitten. Maybe we can make it full screen. I feel like we need to oh my goodness. So the rest of the show we gotta be like, look at your little kitty.
His little paw falls down. Kitty. Oh, look at that.
That's great.
They're never gonna have me back. They're never gonna have me back.
But I do wanna mention. Let's first of all look at all the fur, the frazzleness against the backdrop, right?
Yep.
In a traditional masking perspective, that could be
a nightmare.
It could be a nightmare to do it, right? Like, do you individually go over each frame? Do you feather it a lot? Then it kind of gives away the effect that you actually masked it out. But let's see what Rotobrush 3 is going to do here.
So I'm going to isolate a spot just because we have about 15 minutes.
And then maybe let's not do so long so it doesn't take too long to propagate. But maybe just like 5-7 seconds.
Let's do like... I'll even up you there. We'll do like 3 seconds.
Oh, okay.
Boom. All right.
And of course, the chat's loving the kitty. Right. Ooh, Leah's saying McFluff. Yeah, you could call it name? McFluffer McFlufferson.
All right. So we're just gonna do that little like, and we're gonna say that we don't want to necessarily have him on this background. Like maybe we want to what could be cool is we could put like a different graphic down here and he could kind of lean over it. So we're gonna do the same sort of thing. And we're gonna hop into the layer section. And we're still on the refine. We want to just go into regular Rotobrush. We're gonna do a little cut through. It's going to do a really good job at actually just already figuring it out. And you can see that it's super chattery and it's super crazy. But we're gonna just actually kind of do a general here. Some tips to do is you never really want to have it go over. You never want to go on the edge when you're working on identifying it. This is the span thing we were talking about. We're gonna bring that down to say only do it here. And I'm just, look at that. That is incredible. This is what I tested it on initially.
Look at its pods,
but I didn't even have to update it.
Oh, that's so good.
How cool is that? It was able to identify and move it with that. So we're gonna look at it now.
The paw, it's killing me.
And you say, well, Ryan, that doesn't look very good. And that's when I say, 1, let me do my job, and 2, we're not done yet, so don't worry. The thing that we're gonna do.
I do want to say we have the chat naming the cat.
Okay, McFluffin.
So there's McFluffin, then Sin said Roto, and then Paolo took it a step further and said Rotocat.
Rotocat. Oh, I'm here for Rotocat.
I think it might have to be Rotocat.
And so if you guys remember from the last thing we did, we're going to hop in here and we're going to do a little area around this. And we're going to add just to the fluff here.
Add to the fluff.
And I don't even think we really need it down here. I mean, we could.
I mean, it's...
But
why not? Well, let's see. We got time, and Rotobrush 3 is fast.
Right? Now that we have that identified, we're going to, once again, propagate it through and let it play through all the way. Now it looks like a little Halo Kitty.
Little Halo Kitty. Rotocat.
And you go down. LOL, you tell him. And yeah, this is something that's just I know we only did like 3 seconds here or something, but oop. All right. So right here we're getting some thing, and we can do the same kind of adjustment where we go in and we can subtract this. So we say we don't need you here, we need you here. But I want to make sure I identify that as soon as possible. So we can go in and I can subtract it, and then it will actually see, it'll get rid of that everything to the right of it. So then now as we kind of continue along, and we're going to do the control next here, we'll then be able to identify and be like, okay, cool. It knows what's it knows what I'm trying to communicate with it, which is really cool.
Someone in the chat said that the cat needs balloons in the background. So if we have time, you know, maybe we can add some balloons and bring this stream full circle. Started with a surprise balloon, and it's going to end with kittens and balloons.
Maybe it'll inflate viewership.
Hey. Oh, man, I was trying to think of a quick witty pun, but I'm not good at that. I like that.
So now it has that.
It'll bring us up.
Okay.
Up,
that was not as good.
Up's got balloons.
You know,
it's a movie with balloons. I'm getting there.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. A little more meta in there.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Yeah, who knows?
Not sponsored. And we're continuing to do that. Sin says she's renaming her cat. All right.
But then she says she'll get mad at me. So.
I mean, your cat's gonna be mad at you no matter.
But RotoCat. I mean, we got RotoCat here, and you know this could be the mascot of Rotobrush. So.
Oh, I would be very happy with that.
Yeah.
And so it's continuing to update, and I'll show you guys just also in a second. With it, it's going to do a pretty good job, but it's not going to fully get rid of some of that green probably, and we'll be able to go into our settings like we did just a second ago, and we're going to be able to actually identify the areas that we want cut, and we're going to kind of bring it in and out, and you'll be able to switch it out. Question from Roland. Would it be easier or better to roto the cardboard instead of the cat since it's stationary? Well, one of the benefits of Rotobrush is that it's so good at being able to figure out where movement is happening and what you want to continue to edit. There are multiple different ways that you can also mat things out. If I were maybe doing something with the cardboard, I would maybe even just do like the pen tool and switch it out.
Yeah, if it's stationary, it's probably good just to mask it out. It probably has minimal movement.
And then also to that point, I would also maybe even go into Photoshop and maybe do some content aware, maybe where that overlap is, so that then there was this kind of continuous thing. There's also content aware in After Effects, but I like to do things in Photoshop and bring it back in because then it doesn't have to continue to process it and then see it as a video if I know that it's something that's going to be stationary. I normally use content aware within After Effects if it's something that's like moving and I want to get rid of like a car that is kind of going down the street or something.
Right.
So now we can kind of look at the toggle here, and this is so fuzzy. But what's really cool here too is you can see that it is doing a really good job for the most part. There's some flicker up here, but we haven't even touched our settings yet in the idea of updating kind of where we want it to be adjusted. So let's do that real quick. And there's a few different things we can do. Since we did refine matte across the whole thing, we're going to turn on the reduce chatter, which will help with this ear for when it's going back and forth. And if you guys don't know what chatter is, it's when you're doing something with Rotobrush and it's messing around and maybe like doing something like that, like the chatter of the matte itself. But this helps kind of reduce that to the best and kind of use an average. You can then also continue to bring it up or down if it's too much, if it's too little. But then you're going to go do, and I like to just kind of bring it in a little bit, and you'll see that as we shift the edge by in percentages, it's going to kind of bring it in a little bit more, and we can increase the contrast a little bit more. That way that there is an understanding. We maybe don't need to shift the edge as much because then it's understanding the piece, and we can even smooth it out if we wanted to, but maybe it doesn't want to be smooth because it's the hair actually, so maybe we just want to feather it more so. And if we bring that feather up, it'll continue. Now we'll see there's a little bit of green here, and we could hop back in here and we could actually remove that with the Rotobrush brush again. But since we're on borrowed time here, we're just gonna actually just let it be a little bit. But all things considered, I mean, like that's pretty revolutionary. The fact that it's able to just get that that hair and be able to put that on top of something else.
Yeah, and seeing how fluffy this kitty is. We got to keep the fluff.
Keep the fluff.
We can't just not bring it in. We got a question from the chat asking, do we have to use After Effects or can we use Photoshop? For this, you want to use After Effects because Rotobrush is for After Effects only.
Yeah. And if you wanted to do a static image, you could definitely use some awesome tools in Photoshop in order to adjust that. But in this case, you'd want, do not do crazy animation projects in Photoshop. They have the features. They let you do it. But don't. Bring it over to After Effects.
It's kind of what we said, there's many ways to do things, but there's more efficient ways to do things.
Exactly.
If you want to do animation, technically you can do it in Photoshop, but you're going to be better off just bringing it into After Effects. And earlier in the chat, I saw people said that there was a steep learning curve in After Effects. Yes, to an extent, but by you all being here and watching these, I mean, you're already learning. And I think After Effects is just one of those things you just got to get your hands dirty in. Just fire up the program, learn a thing or two, and then once you kind of get the basis of it, the cool thing about a lot of the Adobe apps, they have sort of the same language, the way they do things. It's just, if you're already fluent in one of the Adobe apps, it's a lot easier to pick up the other apps. And you'll see that it's actually not that hard to bring them to After Effects, and it unlocks all sorts of cool things like making a super fluffy kitty stand out like this.
Mr. Rotocat.
Mr. Rotocat?
Mr.
and Mrs. Rotocat.
Says, what's new in terms of features? I see Rotobrush 3 is getting close to killing off Roto artists. It is definitely going to help you bring to the next level so you don't have to wait as long to do Roto.
It's making your workflow more efficient.
And some of this flicker here is because we didn't go back in and we didn't adjust that green. So it's like, wait, but you want me over here. And I didn't adjust it. But if we ignore that part here and we especially pay attention to over here or down here.
I mean, the right where that light's shining off on the left
just
of it.
Remarkable.
All right, we have about 4 minutes. Do you think we can show off something else super quickly in 4 minutes, or?
I don't know if we're gonna have time to do something in 4 minutes for here. But what we could do here is we could put something behind this kitten.
Let's do it.
Like a balloon. That I could create.
I think in order to wrap this up and make this the most amazing stream ever, I think we need to put a balloon.
Here we go. We're gonna make
in the back. I think you can do it. I have faith.
This is a beautiful balloon.
A shape layer balloon. Oh my goodness, yes. That's actually really good, man. You're doing a pretty darn good job for doing this in the next 3 or 4 minutes.
I'm just doing the trackpad, so bear with me. So we have, I don't want an outline. Get rid of that outline. And the cool thing here is, we can then, I'm going to go in here, put a little guy like this. We'll give it a stroke. We'll delete. Let's do something.
Props to Ryan, everybody, for making a balloon so fast. It looks pretty good for making it in less than a minute.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the right idea with the balloons. Let's get a bunch of balloons in the chat. I like that.
There we go. So we have a very ugly balloon.
And you're already adding light to it. Oh.
We can do little effects. We can do like a wave warp.
Yeah, Victor's coming in at the exact same time. He's like, what did I miss? Well, it's kitties and balloons on Adobe Live today. So what else do you need in life?
And then we'll do 0 for that. We'll make it here so that it'll move along a little bit. We'll then also parent this really quick to here, and then we'll take a position frame. We're going to put it behind here.
Oh, it's so good.
And we'll do position down here.
Yeah, we'll do a quick animation.
And we'll have it pop up here. And then that way, we can have, did I not press P there?
Yeah, I agree, Alex. Ryan absolutely crushing the improv ass. When you're live and you're like, make an animated balloon. Do it in 4 minutes.
All right, we're doing 2 minutes left.
Okay. You're really rising to the occasion.
Hey, there we
I can't even take credit for that. The studio manager running the show tipped me off here. So kudos.
It flips up.
Oh, Don, that's just mean. We don't want to scare the kitty.
No keyframes? Oh, yeah, no, actually I messed up and didn't have the keyframes there. But also the string is in front of the balloon rather than behind it, but maybe it's one of those. Thanks, VXGX.
I love it.
And then it'll play through in real time. But thank you guys so much for having me, and thanks for
letting
me walk you through some Rotobrush.
Kitty and balloons. I love it. Oh. Good job, man. I mean, high five. All right, everybody. Well, we do got to transition out because we got plenty more to come, so don't go anywhere. Stick around. Let's throw up the schedule real quick just to see what next show is coming up. And we are live until, so let's see, we got text-based editing with Fabiola and Evan Abrams coming up. So the duo were just live with us for the last stream, but they'll be live again. So don't go anywhere. Stick around, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes.
See you guys soon. Thanks
Bye,
so much.
everybody.
Bye.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We're back with you. Evan
We're
Abrams.
back.
I'm here hosting now. We've switched seats. Fabiola will now be showing us some text-based
Yes.
editing. So
Everything's different now. Everything's changed, including Premiere Pro's text-based editor.
That's true. Well, that's a pretty good segue. Man, that's great. We're nailing it.
Yep.
So that's what we're going to be doing today. So for the next hour and a bit, we'll be hanging out doing that. If you have questions about text-based editing, old, new, if you've never used it before, bring it to us. Bring it to us. I'm seeing you over here in the Behance. Voodoo Val, Victor, C-Hat. Cody Bear, what's going on? Our mod's holding it down over there, keeping everyone on point, but also on YouTube. We can see your chat over on YouTube. Ask your questions wherever. So Christopher, who else is in here? Roland, what's going on, Roland? So yeah, let us know text-based editing stuff. Tell us what your editing workflows. Tell us what you're making. We want to know what you're making.
Yes, I want to know what you're making, and I want to show you how text-based editor is going to help you. One quick note here, I just realized my nails are green, and so they're Premiere nails, actually.
This is fun. This is good.
So, okay, let's get started. That's hilarious. Okay, so if I show you right now, I have already a project pulled up where I use the text-based editor. If you're not familiar with it, it'll show up in this transcript text window. But I want to show you how to do it from scratch in case you are not experienced with using text-based editor, because I've already kind of set it up, so it kind of always just works out really beautifully.
Right.
But I want to show you how you do it if you've never set it up before. So I'm going to quit this.
And in the chat, someone's mentioning things like Descript. There are a few other. Look, there's some other people who come for the editing by transcript.
Yes.
Thrown around here, but this integration right into the editing software, and
you don't have to go back and forth. I feel like when you use other apps, sometimes you might have to download the file and then try to edit it and
It's turns into like an SRT file or something like this.
Yeah.
Anyway, point being, it's all right here. It's all in that beautiful window, and now we have the capability to remove our.
Yes, we have the capability to remove awkward pauses, ahs, uhs, all kinds of filler words. So all those kinds of things. So here we are. I'm in Premiere Pro, pretending I'm starting a brand new project. So I just want to show you guys here, and then we can touch on some other new features as well. So we have the new template features that show up here when you start a new project. So I'm going to pick the I'm going to go standard template.
Okay, see what's going on.
Yeah, just to show you guys some options. And yeah, I'm going to save this, and I'm going to call this Demo September 27th. To not get confused with the 26th and the other days. Okay.
Exactly.
So create, and here is where you're at when you just start fresh from a template. The best thing is that it already has bins made to organize all of your content, your media. So this is super handy, but I want to show you exactly how it works out when you import footage. So text-based editing is great for any kind of video, I feel like, any kind of video with narrative or dialogue. But if you record a podcast, this is amazing. I have a podcast. I'm going to play with those files to show you guys how beneficial it is to use text-based editor. So I have this, I'm going to call it A-roll, but it's it's the A-roll of this mini episode that I recorded. And I'm going to bring this in. So I'm going to go to footage. And I'm just going to drag and drop that footage in.
Perfect.
All right, we have it right here. And right now you're like, oh, nothing's happening. Why isn't
Big
there?
disappointment.
Oh yeah, what's going on? So what you do is you have to bring it into a sequence for it to start processing it. So I'm just gonna drag it. I'm just gonna create. I know that's like a weird way to create a sequence. I could have created it right in here.
Right.
So I could have brought that right into here, and that would have worked well. I'm going to keep the existing settings, and you can see because I recorded this in Zoom, it's smaller than this file, than this sequence setting. But I'm just going to work with it in here, just for my sake.
Yeah, we did have a question. We had a question from Roland. He's asking about so they have dyslexia, and he's saying, is there a version of the text-based editor that would help someone who's dyslexic? I know there are some aids that help with reading. I don't know if those types of accessibility things have been integrated as of yet. You would need. I'm not particularly an expert on dyslexia, obviously. Obviously. We know I'm not
shocked.
Shocked I'm not a linguistic expert. But if you're able to sort of swap out, if you're already doing something to change the interface's font, for example, if that helps with reading and comprehension, then you'll want to make similar alterations to the type of font that we're seeing it. Anyway, that's
we could do that. Also, I mean, this isn't necessarily extremely helpful for dyslexia, but you do have the option to change kind of the font size. So that's a small thing you can do if you already have the integrations with any sort of, like you were saying, font changer. I don't know what to call them, the interfaces that help change the fonts. That could work. Or if there's any plugins, I'm sure it would be, I would assume it would be compatible, but I'm sure that's up to a million different things.
Look, those are questions beyond our beyond our pay grade around here. But those are definitely, I think, issues if you're moving into a realm where we're not editing with our ears, we're editing with our eyes.
Yeah,
like
something to pay attention to for sure.
Got to be aware of who would be getting left behind from those changes.
Good to know. Good to know.
Oh, and is it possible to bleep curses with this? Curses. Of course, I want to keep all of the curses in, so my enemies are hexed. But of course, we'll be looking at some of those.
I am not cursing on air, so we won't have like an exact case example for this. But I would assume that any sort of word, you can just identify it quickly with this, and then put those audio effects on top, right?
Yeah.
It's not built in, but it's not far off.
That's true, and it also depends on what you think a swear is. So
that's true. That's also true.
Different people have different thresholds for cussing. Anyway, we got our beautiful transcript going on here.
Yes.
We're ready to get to work.
Yes. So I dragged in that media. It's a MP4. I dragged it into the timeline here. The timeline is 5 times faster than it used to be building it, so that's amazing.
We built in all of this banter and padding so that we could give it time to process that we didn't need to allow for.
Yeah, so now it's faster. You'll see if you're building your timeline, your sequence, it's faster, and you should feel happy about that. You won't even notice it because it's so much faster. But here, once you drag that in, it will process this. I had dragged it in before, so I think it had a bit of a heads up. But if it's a brand new file, you'll see it here just kind of like, what's it called? It's like circling, like loading. It'll be like loading, and then it'll all pop up. And so here you can see I have this entire, how long is this? I don't even know. 26 minutes.
Okay.
And it's entirely transcribed automatically. And that is amazing. If you ever, can you imagine, do you remember when you had to have a third party transcribe your videos so that you could have captions and...
even better, I used to do that. So this was one of my first co-op jobs, transcribing and translating.
This is another world, right? This is a whole other world.
Back in my day, I had to...
we won't talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm only 35, people. Get off my case.
So the best thing is that not only is it just transcribed, it's editable. So you can see here, it's... sorry, I thought I was zooming in. I'm trying to zoom in here just for my own sake, working here, trying to get everything in space. So all of this is editable, and it's really simple. You just double click, and now you can fully change things. Like, I don't think I said draws, but it thinks I said that, so I'm just going to edit it. And then it always kind of gets my name wrong, and I can change that, actually. So, for example, once you edit it, just like you would any other text document, you just click out of it and it updates. And if you edit further down the line, it will update the transcription for your source video. So it'll be in there when you open it in another sequence, let's say. Or if you drag it into another project, it should stay there.
Right. So if you go reuse these clips somewhere else, the transcript is part of the clip. It's going to ride with it. Perfect.
So, or if you didn't catch a word until the last sequence version, let's say edit 5, it will, and you edit it, it will update in edit 1.
Yeah.
So it will reflect down the line,
edit
so you don't have to worry about that. On all the different iterations, it'll stick there. So that's always, that's just nice. Thank you, Premiere, for that. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Let me change this word. Okay. Great. And let me show you here some of the cool new views and options. So if you click on these little 3 dots, what's the official word for 3 dots? There's a term for this.
Oh, it's like an ellipses.
No, there's like a term for like,
like a
not like
technical term.
hamburger, but like, you know what I mean? Something like that. But anyways.
It's clearly not hot dog.
No, so if you click transcript.
Smarties, M&Ms.
Something like that.
Let us, people of the chat, let us know.
Let us know the official technical term. There's like a UI term for that, I think. But if you open the transcript view options, you now have all these options for what to show in your transcript.
Right.
So if I deselect, everything's selected, I think, by default, but you can deselect some of these things. And now it's just kind of like raw text.
Okay.
But if I then choose, show me the filler words. Apparently I don't say a ton of filler words in this first section, but you'll see it online as we scroll. Low confidence words. Look at that. Do you see what it's like? It's like underscoring 4, this X.
Oh.
So it's very interesting what it thinks are low confidence words. I'm not exactly sure on the science behind it, but it's good to have.
Are they saying these are words that people with low confidence say?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's a reflection of me as a speaker, or if these words, if it just means like, maybe you should change the grammar here.
Oh.
I don't know.
You said these words without a lot of confidence, so we're going to remove those.
I recommend removing that part.
I don't think you meant to say these words. We're going to remove those.
Yeah, and then you can also have speakers, which is great if you have a lot of speakers, and then pauses. Oh my gosh, someone said kebab is vertical dots, meatball is horizontal dots. We UI designers love food. Yeah, thank you very much.
Excellent.
For a second, I thought you were serious when I read it, and then I realized I got.
Well, that might. Look, I don't design UIs, but they sound like.
They sound like professionals.
They sound hungry.
Thank you, Jack.
Is what they sound like. But yeah.
And another cool thing here is that if you've used text-based editing before, pauses were already incorporated as you can see them as these 3 little ellipses.
Kebabs. Yeah.
And but now you can edit how the thresholds for what a pause is. So I can say, for example, if you speak really slowly, you might have natural pauses all the time.
True.
And you might say, okay, it's not a real pause unless it's a second and a half.
Right.
Or if you speak really fast, maybe your pauses are, you can see here, if I pull it all the way to the lowest threshold, I start getting a lot more ellipses throughout my text. And it's like real time. You can start seeing that.
Because sometimes it's not a mistake. It's deliberate speech.
Wow, it would be so difficult to speak at that cadence for me. But yeah, I think the default is around half a second. I'm gonna leave that there. And then you also have some search settings here. If you want to open that up, you can select to find whole words only or match capitalization. So find whole words only is great. For example, if you, like for example, I was looking for the word looking for okay.
Right.
And if you type in okay, it might, if you said book, it'll show up there, because there's an okay in book. So that's kind of where you can figure out how into the weeds you want to get with your search. So there's just a lot more customization available in the new update, and it's really handy if you're editing dialogue. I just feel like it's really going to speed everything up. So I'm going to save that. Wonderful, wonderful. And I'm going to show you, I really want to show you like an okay, here it says filler.
Oh.
Filler.
It just tags it with.
It just tags it as like, it's like BS. Right, like, this is filler. This is filler. So I'm going to just get my headphones and see if I can hear this. Which way? Okay. Let's go. I don't need to like overcompensate in any way or the other. Okay, so I said that's just a really true to life filler word, very casual filler word, and I just want to show you how easy it is now to identify this and remove them. So if you are in your transcript window, and I just want to reiterate in case somebody's not familiar, if you're not seeing the text window, you'll need to make sure that you have the text window selected, because if not, you won't see it, and then you're going to be sad because you're going to be like, I watched this whole stream and I don't know where this panel is. And that would be sad.
Well, speaking of panels, there's a question Roland was asking about how does this work in multicam timeline, and how things get jumbled in terms of whether we're editing the source transcript or the sequences transcript. So I hope people can see down at the tiny, the wee bottom of this. You know, there are some buttons for.
You may click this one.
Well, I mean, we don't have to click.
Uh-oh, what did I do?
No, you want to go back to the other one.
Go back to the other one.
Gipsy's backsies. Because
there we go.
So yeah, we've got multiple buttons for whether you're looking at the sources words or the sequences words. Because as you start chopping up this sequence, this is going to start to change the order and stuff. So if people are not aware, the tiny buttons, while they don't have fun food names, they are useful down the bottom.
They are useful, and I feel like when you're just building more robust sequences, that's when that definitely comes into play.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So,
all right. So what I was showing here, now you know where to find that window. If you select this little funnel, it will filter out everything that you select. So it will basically highlight it. I think you can only select one thing at a time, so I can't like select two. But I can say, show me all the filler words, and then it jumps to the filler words and highlights them for you so that you can just listen to it back.
Right.
Career path.
Just to confirm. Yes, this is filler.
Yeah, and so here you can see I have 6 filler. There are 35 filler results, essentially. I'm on the 6th one. And I can kind of jump up and down to review them. So in this section, I have a lot more. And from here, you'll see this magical little button that says delete. So if we click this, I'm going to go like to this one. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to get delete. And I'm going to say, do I want to delete them all or just one? I'm going to just delete one.
Okay.
So I think it's going to delete the one that we had selected, which was down here. Let me undo that because I want to play it. Because I'm not in Chile. That kind of thing. So I'm going to just say delete. Oh, I deleted the wrong one. Hold on. I'm trying to get this right, you guys. Go up to the result. Here we go. I want to delete this one. And very simply.
I'm not in Chile because I just don't feel like that was.
Boom, it's just gone. You didn't even notice that I deleted it because it was so natural the way it cut it out.
Right.
And if I review all 35, which I'm not going to do right now on air, that would be the boringest stream you could ever think of, just listening to my ums.
Yeah, well, we can make a supercut of all the ums.
Yes.
If you can select them, we can actually just extract them.
That's true.
Get real wacky with it.
Yeah, but I'm going to say delete them all. With just one button, I've deleted all the ums, and you can see here in this sequence all the little splices it's done where it's deleted every single and it's very natural. Let me show you.
Totally fine. I don't need to like overcompensate.
That one wasn't so natural.
I can just be.
But how about here?
I don't know, lack of Latina because I'm not in Chile. Because I just don't feel like that's natural.
All right. So something that I like to do sometimes when it's not the smoothest, and I'm sure there's better ways, but I'm showing you one way to do it here, all right? I just do a crossfade sometimes.
Right.
Just a simple apply default transition. I don't need it on the cut. I just kind of do it here and narrow it in, and it sometimes just helps smooth it out.
Because
if you're coming in hot off of this word, and then this one, you're going to get the...
Yeah, sometimes you need a little bit of that, but I will say that most of the time, you won't even notice it. But if you really want to be nitpicky and really want to like finesse your content, which I recommend you do, that's how you do it.
Yeah, look, some people don't care.
Some people don't care. Some people don't care. Some people care less. This is a really good question here from Randy.
Okay.
This is amazing. So Randy's asking, I use the word so quite a bit in my videos. Can you filter those out too? So if we go into this filter, you'll see there's no so filter. There's no like filter. There's no specific word filter. But because the transcript we have the text for it, is actually searchable. So if I do so, I'm going to say it so many times. Okay. All right. There we go. There's 95 results of times I said so.
Right. And this is, of course, where that setting to say, I only want the whole words would come in, because SO is going to appear in a whole bunch of words.
In a lot, like here, sourcing.
Yeah.
What am honestly, I don't even remember this video. I'm like, what am I talking about? But let's not even think about that right now. There is a full mini-sode available on Spotify.
Right.
Where you can view what I actually end up saying. But, because and now I'm curious what I even said. I'm going to go here to transcript view options, search setting, match whole words only. I wonder if I match capitalization, it would pick up like
names.
Yeah. So I'm going to do find whole words only, save, and I'm going to research this. And it went down to 64 results. So you can see that some of those results previously were parts of words. And you can delete them all. So I'm going to just delete them all now.
Even the ones that are integral to sentences. Absolutely, yeah.
And now they're all gone. Well, okay, let's just delete one because that's a little severe. So here we go.
I want to connect us all. So we can inspire.
Let's just remove every adjective while we're at it.
So you'll see that the one that you have highlighted in orange is the one it's going to delete. I'm going to delete that one. And now it's gone. It usually does a little break.
This all that I can inspire.
So now it sounds very unnatural. I should have had the word so in there. But yeah, that's one other way you can use this. Something I say a lot is like so. You know, so I can be specific and find just when I say it like so together. I might have to change my settings. Here we go. So I can, that one's a word, but I'm sure here, it makes me like so happy. So here you can remove it. There you go. And that other question we have here from C-Hat Erican asking if it supports other languges. Yes.
En español.
Yes. Now I'm not going to, okay, I think it's actually here in preferences. Where's my preferences?
Oh, it might be under, is edit where the preferences live?
You know what I'm trying to find, right? Settings. Here we go. Settings. Right. Transcription. And here under preferences, you can find a lot of information that you might want to set up differently once you start getting in the flow of working with text-based editor. So here's automatically transcribe clips. I have it set to that. It'll prompt you, I believe, to set that up. But if you're noticing that it's not automatically transcribing the clips that you want in your sequence, go ahead and check your preferences. Speaker labeling, which if you interview someone and you have like, you're the host and then you have a guest, it will identify and label those speakers. But here is the question that you're asking, which is enable language auto selection. So its default is English, but there are all of these other languages you can select for auto detection. So if you have something recorded in Japanese, you can auto transcribe the Japanese. So
and more all the time. Right? This list is growing, and obviously it takes an amount of training, right? We need to be able to train the thing to recognize the voices and to do good with voices.
Yes.
Well, not we don't train it.
We personally don't, but we do personally use it.
Yeah. We're not out there, with a stopwatch making the robot do push-ups or something. That's not what we're doing, but it's.
But we should be.
Yeah. Finally.
I wonder if I changed mine to English UK. It would just change the spelling of things, right? It would probably change, if I said color, it would change it to
color neighbor.
with a U.
Yeah. Switch it to Canadian mode.
It would add some stuff. So it's very interesting, and you can set it. And I have used it in Spanish. It's amazing. And my name, Fabiola, it doesn't pick it up in the English transcriber. I have to always edit my name a little bit. But in the Spanish one, it picks it up. Okay. No problem. So
I'm sometimes penalized for being Canadian. So when I say about, if I say a boot, it'll really punish me by saying a boot. Yeah, really.
Well, actually, about that, if you go to spell check settings, you can enter words into the dictionary. So you can find those common problems and replace them. So that's kind of nice. Yep. You can kind of grow your dictionary based on your own language, idioms.
Right.
Language-ums.
Sin Legos here has a question about kind of like code switching. If you're going to be dipping into English and then into Spanish, have you noticed if it picks up on those?
Yeah, I have noticed that it does not.
Okay, so you may want to just transcribe, but if you're doing it in the same clip, that could be,
I feel like my workaround is go with the one that you're speaking the language the most.
Okay.
Right? Have it do most of the work.
Right.
And then in the parts that you want to switch, I tend to just, especially if you're doing Spanglish, it's usually a few words here and there. You just kind of edit the transcript to match what you're doing. That's kind of my workaround. But I could see there being a future where it auto detects someday out there.
Yeah, and it's gotta remember it's very difficult to say okay, this model I need you to be doing both English and Spanish. English maybe particularly because English borrows from so many languages.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's so many things. We could talk about linguistics all day.
We'll be here all night, guys. But
Guys, isn't it crazy that English actually comes from German? Oh, wow. Anyway.
let's not go there. So yeah, this I really, really love. The filler word detection, basically any word detection and being able to delete is really nice because you don't even notice how often you say these words. And this is one way to be a little bit more polished. And I like, in my opinion, I wouldn't delete all ever really. I would delete, let's say half maybe, right? What would you say?
Yeah, like it's, I don't know. I leave it all in because I'm unkind to the people I interview. I present them exactly as they are.
Well, I would do a little mix so that it's not so unnatural that they sound like they read off a teleprompter,
Yes.
but not so distracting that they're saying for so long.
I joke. We want to present people in their best possible light.
Yeah.
You know, usually we're interviewing people to really big them up or something.
Yeah,
right?
you definitely want to big people up. And so that's just what you can do with the text-based editor in terms of like auto selection and removing words and stuff. But you can actually completely edit your entire sequence this way. So let's say for some odd reason, because I don't want to focus right now, but let's just say I'm going to take this whole ending, which is actually my intro. So I'm going to remove, I just want to show you real quick how to remove pauses. You just kind of select it, highlight it, and delete it. And then it's gone. And if you notice that it's not doing that, it's probably because you clicked this automatically set in out points. If you don't have this selected, it's not going to be selecting those in and out points and deleting them. So then you'll be like, why can't I edit? Why isn't the text-based editor doing the editing?
Right.
So you can do that, and I'm just going to show you how easy it is. If I just select this whole intro, which you can now see it on my timeline, it's been selected. I can just copy. I just press Command-C, delete. It's gone now, and I'm just going to plop it at the end just to show you how easy it is. I'm just going to paste it right here.
Right.
Boom. And now my intro is at the end, which is what we all wanted to see.
Yeah. This one. Before it slides off the screen, there's another question about, is it possible to show the text speaking, such as a subtitle? And absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's spoiler coming.
Spoiler, we're doing this right now. So I'm going to just edit some words out. Okay. So ignore any of misspellings here. I just don't want to take up any time on the little things. I want to show you the main juicy parts. So you can actually, once you have your transcript, I would say review your transcript a few times, make sure the spelling is good, make sure the words are the words that you said about a boot, you know, those kinds of things. Once you have the transcript in a good place, all you have to do is press this little create captions button. It's so little and but this is a big deal. You press create captions, and now you have all these settings that you can easily edit to create captions for your video, and they're going to be in a separate caption track. So they're not just ruining your video permanently.
Yeah. You can bake them in, you can stylize them, do whatever you like.
You can do whatever you like. So right now we have no caption styles, but if you watched Evan's stream earlier, which you should catch the replay if you haven't, there's actually built-in caption styles available if you select some of the social media templates that I showed you at the beginning of the stream. This is a standard template, but in lieu of having a style already made, we can quickly make one. So I'm going to say I want, this is arbitrary, 17 lengthen characters sounds good. Minimum duration, I'm going to say 2 seconds because I feel like people like to read it fast. Something about it keeps them on there for long. I'm going to say single lines. And create captions. And this might take a little bit, but not very long. Suddenly, your 26-minute video should have all of the captions. There's a bit of a warning that we're going to ignore. Not sure what that's about. But yeah, you can see here that based on my transcript, this is now just captions. So let me play a little clip through. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Draws in Spanish. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Draws in Spanish. So there you go. And even though you've now created these captions, they're still editable. So you can see here we were on the transcript tab of the text panel. Now we're in the caption track, and I can say, oh, never mind, that's not how I want to spell something. And there we go. And I just edit it after the fact. So this is super cool, and it's just a bonus part of having the transcript auto-transcribed.
Right, like it's already been turned into data. That data is already marked to time.
Yeah.
So it's not too much to switch it over. There is a question, can we create captions in other languages than the speaking language? Yeah, you can make all kinds of caption tracks. You can have an infinite number of caption tracks if you desire, right? It's all in there. So
I don't know if it automatically
No.
I can't generate a Spanish transcription from this
No.
English transcription. If that's what you're asking, we're
Yeah.
not there yet.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are other ways for you to get to that result.
Yeah, and if you are, so for example, if you're sending this out to get it translated, they're going to kick you back an SRT file, which will most likely have different timings, right? Because even if you go from English to Spanish, Spanish to English, like
words are different sizes.
Yeah, and like this, and the same sentence can be communicated totally differently. So it's like those types of things. So the SRT file will be different, but then you just plop that back down on the thing.
But you can get an SRT file of the same language. So once you generate your captions, if you click the three dots again, you'll have export, and you can export to a text file, to a CSV file, or to an SRT file, which is the one for YouTube, right? And for a lot of closed captioning. So there you have those options. You cannot, within Premiere right now, transcribe to a different language than the language that the audio is in. But hey, who knows what's on the horizon?
Yeah, and it obviously we're speculating about the future.
Yeah. How did I turn that subtitle on the sequence? So you'll see it right here. Once you if you're in transcript and then you click create captions and select your preferences and select create captions, it will automatically generate this track right here, which is the subtitle track. And that is, you can toggle that on and off. And that will be your captions. And if you select it, I guess I'll have to go here to the Essential Graphics panel. I can actually edit this appearance. So just to show you really quickly how you could do this, let's say I want the captions in the center of the screen. I want them to be, I want them to be a different color. Let's say a yellow. Great. I can customize the font. I'm going to do Futura. Let's do medium, and I'm going to make the captions huge. This is just my aesthetic. You can't come for me for that. But
these are all subjective ideas.
These are all just my ideas I have right now on stream. So all you do here is under Essential Graphics, you have to be in the Edit panel, otherwise you won't see it. So I just want to remind you of that. You hit Create Style, and I'm going to have this large caption style. Right. Okay. And then I can apply this caption style to all the captions on the track. And now as we toggle through here, these giant captions appear everywhere. And the best part is you can change your mind and update. You can change your mind and then update both the captions on the track and the style in the project. So you can, it's not, you don't have just one opportunity to change it. It's basically editable forever until you make your final decisions, which if you're like me, can take quite some time.
Well, speaking of, we got to see you chop some more stuff up here.
Yes.
So we derailed right into...
We derailed to captions, but it's part of the powerful tools that we have here with the text-based editor. Something else that I want to show you here is the enhance speech, which I feel like is really cool for text-based editing.
Right. So we touched on that a little bit in our first half hour, but yeah, even though we have I see a beautiful microphone here. You're talking into it with headphones on. I mean, some of the walls are pretty bare, so there might be a bit of echo in that room. I don't want to.
Oh, it's a bit echoey.
I don't want to nitpick your setup in here.
It's for sure, but I have this mic kind of high.
Yeah.
Kind of upgrades my audio despite the lack of padding I have in this room, in the echoey room. But here is what I want to show you. If we go over to Essential Sound, and then we're in here and we just select auto tag. it will just show you automatically tag it to dialogue, because this is dialogue, it's podcast. And if you click enhance, which I feel like might take a second, because it's a bit of a long track, but I've done it before. So there we go.
Well, I mean, some seconds.
Yeah. Well, I enhanced just this one clip. So let me go. I'm going to duplicate it and remove the enhance. So we have, here is regular. This is without any sort of treatment.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Draws in Spanish.
Okay. It's fine. And now we're going to play the enhanced version.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode.
You can see there's a bit of a change. It's pretty subtle, but it's not, it is improving it ever so slightly. The thing is, I have a pretty good mic here. It's not just an iPhone mic.
Hello, everyone.
But you got to think about every little bit helps, right?
Every little bit helps.
The playback location will also be degraded depending on how they got like traffic around them and stuff like that. Now before we're too far away, let's divert back to the closed caption tab.
Yes.
Is that keyframeable too when you moved the
captions in the sequence?
I don't know if the captions can be keyframed in their movement. If it doesn't show up in the effects controls, right?
No.
Then we can't actually set keyframes on them. But you could always take those things, use them as text layers, like copy and paste the information.
I think what you can do is track settings, and instead of doing it, there's a way to get them to be graphics.
Oh, so not on a subtitle track, but they would have to look here
Yes, there's a way to do
track.
it. I'm forgetting right now how to do it, but there's a way to just convert all of these to be. I feel like it's maybe a right click. I believe I either hallucinated that this was possible. I'm pretty sure.
Wait, we can't just drag them down, can you? That would be crazy.
No, there's a way to convert this track. View and text panel. Captions, export, filter by captions. I'm almost confident because there's this graphics tab you see here.
Right.
And there's nothing in there. There's a way. There's definitely a way. but right now I'm blanking on it.
Yeah. I know.
You stumped me.
If only we could give out prizes. It's a shame that we don't do it.
Yeah, there's definitely a way to do it, and I'm sure now I'm gonna watch this back and be like, oh, it was right there.
Yeah.
It was just like
as soon as we finish
button.
up, then it'll snap in your mind. That's why people need to follow you on social media, so they can pick it up.
Yeah, DM me and I'll show you. I'm positive there's a way to do it because I've played with it before. But yeah, it's very customizable, and you can still these are still kind of customizable. Not clips, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean they still behave.
Edit them. They kind of behave like clips.
Yeah.
So that you can edit them that way. Oh, it's gonna drive me nuts. But anyway,
that's true. We'll take a centering moment.
Yeah, it's gonna drive me nuts. But I want to show you here. The cool thing about text-based editor is, while you're viewing like your entire file, like I can already see for whatever reason I paused forever.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, it's because it's a caller episode, and I have some. Voicemails that I got from callers from the show. So I'm going to drag in these voicemail Q&As. All right, we have them in here now. And I don't know which one went into which space. I recorded it kind of like with a live reaction type of thing.
Oh, okay.
And so now I have audio in my second audio track, and I'm just going to show you here how funny it sounds because it's a call-in,
Right.
Let's see.
Based in Brooklyn, and I have found this podcast to just be absolutely incredible, which I have already expressed via.
So you can hear it does sound like a phone call.
Yeah.
That's,
It's got that phone call energy.
Yeah. And that's fine because you want to have that sometimes. You want to have the accessibility of having people just be able to call in. And this is another way you can use the enhance feature. So if you go to essential sound, auto tag, and then just do the enhance, this is going to sound a lot better, and it's pretty just quick and easy. And we can also get it to transcribe it in the caption. So let's see. It's doing a lot of things now. Okay, it just enhanced it. So let's play it back.
Creator creator based in Brooklyn, and I found this podcast to be absolutely incredible.
So I'm playing
which
with the
I
mix
have
amount.
already expressed via an email to you, but to all who are listening.
So there we go. And it sounds a little bit better. I think it's starting from a pretty low point. So, you know, you can only do so much when the audio is already pretty degraded, you know?
Yeah.
And the response, like the microphone response of phones is totally different from like these beautiful microphones in front of our faces.
Yeah. It's totally different. And I just want to show you that it will transcribe multiple. Let me see. I feel like it's not going to do it now. I feel like because it threw me off.
Yeah.
Let's see. It does. Where is it? Here we go. It's here for you. Let me see. There's a big paw. Why isn't it transcribing it now?
I think you may have. I've found that I usually need to chop out actually the silence in the top clip.
You do? I've been able to do it without before, but let me do it for now just to see, because right now I don't think it's. Here we go. It's right there. So maybe so.
Yeah.
Try it both ways.
Life hacks.
I have done a version where I left that space, but it will then have a hard time. If the space is blank, it's fine. But if there's audio on both, then it's going to have a hard time dictating what to transcribe.
Like if there's enough like background noise that it's like, maybe she's saying something.
Maybe she's saying something. Yeah. So here we go.
This is Lauren.
So now I can go in and tweak this, right? She said this is Lauren. So I would change that. And it's not currently in our captions. But if you I'm going to just cut out the captions we don't need just to keep things tidy. And then you can also just generate captions for different, where is it? Different mixes. I've done it before. Everything's moving on me. Here we go. It's somewhere in here.
Oh, speaking of moving, will you track that down?
Yeah.
Roland, coming with it. Upgrade captions to graphics was the thing that we were hunting for. Apparently, it's found in the graphics menu, so it's in there.
Wait, I want to find it now. The graphics menu. I'm in here.
So I think it means maybe the graphics and titles up at the top. I think.
Upgrade captions. Okay, yeah, right there. So it is just a button, and it will do it. And you have to select all of them, I believe. And then from here, if you go into Effect Controls, you're able to do that. So that's if you want to customize the in and out for your captions. But in the meantime, I just want to show you here that in the text panel, we now have this whole section that's brand new. I think it's all of this, right? It goes further than that. I think something that might be happening is that it's not detecting it as a different speaker.
Oh, right, yeah.
So what I'm going to do is edit the speaker. Click off. Edit the speakers. You guys, this is it's not letting me click.
Oh, man.
Hold on one second. Oh, I think it's because source transcript. Let's go in here. Okay, hold on one second. I'm just going to open another. I have another one set up here where everything worked very nicely. So instead of
I was going to say cooking show, like we'll just go to the one that's completed already.
Fidgeting with it.
Yeah.
Let's go in here. So I have this one, and you can see here that I have captions set up for.
And I'm a creator based in Brooklyn.
I love this.
And I have found this podcast.
So there we go. The captions, you just have to generate another caption track and you're fine. But for some reason, it was being a little bit finicky with me, so I don't want to fight with it.
Is this a real phone number?
Yeah, this is not my personal phone number, but it is a phone number you can call to drop in questions.
To leave a question or a comment for your podcast. Okay, that rules.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic.
So you can definitely call that number or text it. And so here you can see I have already the caption tracks laid out for that. And if we go into the transcript, I didn't say no dialog found. Here we go. Here is like the main transcript, and you can see I have different speakers. And if I select that, which it wasn't letting me do earlier, you can edit the speaker name. So I'm going to have speaker 1, myself, Lauren, and this I have another person. I think the name was Natalia. And if you save it, it shows it over here. And you can see here that I actually made this caption totally different than, I made it part of the video. I burned it into the video instead, just because I wanted it to play through since it was a voice call.
Right. And really, like, if you're using these things as that SRT file, and it's gonna like the player, wherever people play this back, they'll put it on. I don't know. I think it's nice to burn them in all the time, because you never know. You never know how actually accessible the players are going to be.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
It's I gotta say, I love that you have a phone number people can call into. This is amazing.
You have to. I feel like I want to be my listeners. I want to talk to them, So I have that set up, and you can see I did the same exact method over here.
Right.
I have it transcribed. This is a whole other caller, and this is not enhanced. So let's play.
Oh yeah, and I have 2 questions for you.
Now I'm just curious what it'll sound like here if we do auto tag and we enhance it. It's another new feature today that launched, and so let's see, it should be pretty quick. And yeah, I think when you can't control other people's audio, it's really nice to have enhance as kind of your backup sound guy,
Yeah.
So okay, it mixed it. Let's see, it enhanced it.
Fab, this is Natalia, and I have 2 questions for you. The first one is,
so you can see I'm playing here with the mix amount, because that will help you just kind of establish how much you want to enhance it, which really comes down to how you want it to sound, maybe not a little too robotic. So that's another benefit, and you can do that right when you're editing and editing your transcript and editing with the transcript. So for example, let me go back to the other project. Here we go. We have this project. I'm going to delete the caption track right now just because I feel like it might be messing with things. And I want to, let me move some things over, just show you how really easy it is. So I'm going to just delete some pauses here. Here we go.
You can also text me, but if you call me, I'll play it on the show, so that's a little bonus. Okay, let's get into our first call for the day.
So I don't want to say, I say okay a lot when I speak, but it's not really natural sometimes when you play it back. So I'm just going to highlight okay and this pause. So now I've highlighted the pause and okay. You can see it there. I'm going to just hit delete on my keyboard, and now it cuts that off. It always kind of disorients me a little bit when it breaks it, but it's part of the bonus, kind of the captions.
Let's get into our...
So now it just, I don't even think you guys noticed how clean that was. I'm messing it up.
A little bonus. Let's get into our first call for the day.
So that's really natural. It was a really good spot to just cut that. Yeah, no problems. And one more thing that I want to show you guys, if you just need to upgrade your audio, but let's say you're not doing video or anything like that, we can do the Adobe Podcast audio. Whoops. All right. So
that's true. Actually, if you can throw to my screen, I got it set up on here.
Yes. Let's pop over to Evan's stream and see. Okay.
So this is podcast.adobe.com,
which is what Enhance basically is, but built in, maybe a bit different.
Yeah, and you can see the interfaces. You just drop files into here. It'll process them. It'll return them to you. I do want to say, you can go into the features here. In terms of like, if you are an Express Premium type of person, then some of us are premium. Anyway, but so the free version, no bulk processing, no strength adjustment, 30 minutes maximum, right? So try it out there, see if you like it. But if you are doing a lot of podcasts, for example, let's say you have 2 people on a podcast, right? Yeah. And they talk for an hour. That's actually 2 hours because you have 2 hours worth of track to go through. So anyway, bulk uploads, you can enhance more, up to 4 hours a day. I don't know how many hours worth you're processing in a day, but that's a lot. But it is.
Hey, we're not asking any questions here. It's just available for you.
You know what? You can be doing things 24 hours. But anyway, you can enjoy all of this stuff because if you're just working with raw audio files, when you're going to kick it over into Audition or whatever, right? Or you're recording people remote, enjoy it there. Okay, that's podcast.adobe.com.
Yeah. And yeah, it's built into Express as well, right? So that's another way to use it, or you can use it directly in Premiere Pro. So it's very handy. And let's see, what else about text? I mean, I think the filler thing, removing filler words is so clutch. And I think if you've used text-based editor at all over the last year, you know how close it was. And now it's finally here, and it's just one click, which I really, really enjoy. And I want to point out here that if you don't have Let me see. Is it the pauses? Yeah, okay. Before there was just one button, and now it's in there, so never mind there. But let me open up another quick thing I have here. So in these recordings, I have a lot of different options here, but I also just want to show you. Okay, I have these iPhone videos.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm going to drop them in, and I brought these in because they're a little more casual.
Right.
So let's see. There's this one. Okay. So I'm going to close all my sequences. I'm going to make a new one just to share this with you. So I want to use enhance, and I also want to show you how we can use the text-based editing tool. So this is all I said. How is this real? How can that be real?
Right.
So let me show you. Ooh, that's not the most pleasant to hear.
Real. That can't be real.
So that's me just being in awe of Paris roofs.
Right.
So I just want to show you, if we go into auto tag, you heard that really loud, which is kind of romantic.
Right.
But
Oh, I was going to say haunted, but sure, yeah.
it's like the romantic. So I don't know how well it's going to eliminate that, but let's
As you
see.
know, all ghosts are very romantic. This is just a fact about ghosts.
I minimize it a lit,
How is this real?
but the voice sounds a lot better.
That
Yes.
can't be real.
Because before it sounded like it was behind the phone, which it was,
yeah.
and now I can actually just edit all of this, say I don't need this part, which, yeah, I would argue you kind of do need that part, but let's just say you can just quickly edit this down,
How is this real?
Yeah.
That can't be real.
and that's how quickly it is to edit. Or I can just grab this part, copy it, delete it from the back, and just with text-based editing, just switch it up. I didn't have to go into the sequence to actually make those edits. Oh, it's rendering.
That can't be real. How is this real?
So I just wanted to show you how even with the most simple iPhone clip, you can still use text-based editing to not only edit the video, but also enhance it so it sounds even better.
Right. And I have one question here on the YouTube. It's asking, are these things restricted to a project, works in progress and stuff? So everything you're seeing, this is version 24 that we've been working on today. I don't know if we said that at the beginning. So if you want access to this stuff like right now, right now, download the beta. Play around with that. If people are not aware of how to get the beta, that might be worth showing real quick. But the release is gonna be pushed public pretty soon. There's the beta apps that you can grab in here.
Right here, beta apps.
Yeah, if you want to play around basically with what is coming up, what is the newest, what will be kind of tested out and then made a full feature, this is the place to do it.
Yeah. Definitely recommend it to get all the newest features and just kind of see what's up next.
Yeah, and speaking of what's up next, we might as well show the schedule of what's going on, because we've got more streams coming up today.
We've got a lot more streams.
I'll be jumping into the next seat over. We're talking about True 3D after this, and then of course we've got office hours with Andrew and Nick. We'll be chatting it up. I think they're talking about Max today. There's lots of fun stuff going on in the office hours. So that's what's coming up. We have a few more moments together here together. So one, we've been talking about your podcast. What is your podcast and how can people find it?
Oh yeah, my podcast is called Draws in Spanish. I interview Latin American artists and talk about their creative process and career. And I use Premiere Pro to edit the entire podcast because it's a video podcast. And I can't tell you how helpful having text-based editing is for just hour-long podcasts, to be able to quickly find the part that I'm thinking of. Like, what about that time that they talked about their dog? I can just search dog and it'll show right up. I didn't talk about dog in this stream. I think this was a call-in episode, so it's totally different.
Yeah.
But it's really helpful to have text-based editor just to search instead of having to just kind of remember that exact in and out point.
Yeah, you have to take really good producer notes while you're doing the call.
And if you remember a part that's really good, so let's say, let me just say this question right here. I think Danny Brito also talked about an online shop on the show. I'm going to hit command copy, and let's say I want that to be like the teaser.
Oh, yeah.
So I can just drop that into the beginning, and now the beginning of my show has this little bit.
Right.
Hello, everyone.
Oops, a lot of things are playing here. I have that second file.
I think Danny Brito also talked about his online shop on the show.
So I can have that and then have that cut into an intro, and you can select those teaser little moments and drag them to anywhere you want on the sequence using text-based editor.
Right. So where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me at Fabiolita drawsinspanish.com, which I see is in the chat already. Thank you, Val. Yeah, and what about you?
Well, I mean, you can find Evan Abrams on the internet at
Everywhere.
EC Abrams. Yeah, well, I mean, wherever Google points you. Just keep in mind, there are other Evan Abrams out there, and they are not me. I'm the one that talks about After Effects nonstop, which is what's going to be coming up in a little bit. So yeah, try out the text-based editing. Enjoy the much faster timeline, up to five
times faster.
5 times faster. And
Say that 5 times fast.
the 5 times faster timeline, it's not alliterative, so it really slides off my brain. But that's what's going on. Enjoy enhancing your speech. I hope that we answer people's kind of quandaries. There were lots of questions about kind of languages and bouncing back and forth.
Captions.
Someone specifically called it GoPro footage as something difficult to enhance because it is that really like the microphone inside of plastic. It's not good. Try it out. Try the feature. Work that slider back and forth, and hopefully that'll get you some stuff. But yeah, I guess that's about it for now. Thanks for being with me here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I can't wait to see what you guys do with text-based editing. I find it to be super powerful for long-form and short-form videos. Don't underestimate what it can do for just tightening up short videos.
Yeah,
I feel like it's not only for long videos.
Yeah, get those ahs, and likes out the door.
Any sort of little voiceovers for your Instagram or your TikTok, it's going to be really handy.
All right, then we're going to get out the door, so we'll see you back here just in a couple minutes. All right, bye for now.
Hey guys, welcome back at it. Welcome back to Adobe Live. I'm Ryan Selvy. This is Evan Abrams. And we are here to talk about what today?
We're here to talk about true 3D.
Not false.
No, not fake 3D, not faux 3D. The true 3D, the real 3D-ness. That's what we're going to be getting into today.
Okay. And what do you use that specifically for? Like, what is...
Right.
When would you use that in your workflow?
Okay, so we should probably preface this with After Effects has for the longest time had a 2.5D environment, right?
Right.
We can make a layer 3D, but it's really like we're making a layer that is actually flat, and then other layers are flat. We can parallax between them, we can move a camera around, we can solve a scene in 3D, and that'll create the camera that shifts and spins around, right? Which is fun, it's great.
Right.
But before, if we would bring in 3D elements, say we brought in like a .c4d file, right?
Okay.
Hold on, I'm going to lean over here.
Well, we're going to talk about some cinema real quick.
I'm going to lean away from the microphone. So usually if you bring in a 3D thing, it has to live on a layer, and it behaves more like a window into a 3D world. So if you brought in two 3D elements, you can't orbit them because one has to live on this layer, and that layer must, in a hierarchical system, be on top of the other layer. Right? Big words, as promised while we were off air. So this true 3D means these things are not locked in their separate windows. They live in the same universe. We can orbit around them. We can go different places. We can light them in remarkably different ways. It's a totally different render engine, right?
So are they are actually on the Z-axis, or
they're there?
Okay.
Yeah, they're in the universe around each other. They can intersect with each other. So complex geometry. Ooh, sorry. Ooh, burping up my poke bowl. So the complex geometry can intersect with each other. And before it would be just like, you know, these two things that aren't really there, but now they can mesh with each other. I don't know. I feel like I'm talking about the stuff. We might as well just get into the screen and see what's going on.
I'm here
right?
for it.
It's
also, hello to CJ and Armando, Jack. Good to see Umacorn again. CJ, thanks for everyone tuning in. If you guys are confused or you have questions or comments about anything while we are live for the next hour, by all means, start in the chat. We have a nice little chat window that we can see, and I'll also be sure to call things out as we move along.
Yeah. So I've created a bunch of projects for us to kind of have a look at. Now, here's one of them. Right, we got this bust of Marcus Aurelius here. This is something made of photogrammetry. It's produced by the British Museum, and you know, we're able to orbit and fly around it. Right.
Right.
Not much to write home about here because this still was possible before. We could have done this before.
Yeah, this is old news.
Come on.
I'm bored.
Yawn, yawn, yawn.
Entertain me.
Bread and circuses coming up next. These are called good segues. However, let's mix it up. Let's get a bunch more 3D objects in the mix. Here's a banana dance for you. Here's a bunch of bananas moving, twisting, and overlapping each other specifically. So you see the geometry isn't necessarily intersecting with each other, but they can flip from being on one side to the other side if we want, right? There isn't, if you were to make this thing radially, in the olden times, in the pre-true times, before we discovered truth, you know, we would have had two of the bananas not overlapping particularly nicely on top of each other. But now, you can get all these bananas overlapping perfectly.
That's bananas.
There we go. Now we're crushing it. So,
no, but on a real note, there is cool that there is a multiple overlay of both where the stem is and then where the bottom of it is, and the fact that it's doing that radial kind of.
A thing that we would have had to do in like a native 3D app. We would have had to open up Blender, open up Cinema 4D to get these kind of things coming out of it. Now, speaking of what's coming out of it, I want to just preview a couple more of these. Oh no, I keep previewing the wrong thing. Maybe because my thumb is resting on spacebar.
Also, hello to Joe. Good to see you. Says, what's a crack-a-lackin'? How's everybody doing? Good stuff, fellas.
Yeah.
It's good time indeed. Hey, Oliver. Hi. Welcome to the stream.
What's playing players? So here's another kind of thing you can make, a big cloud of stuff, right? And because it's all independent things, we can have a nice little orbit around them, right? You can do much more complex moves in and out of stuff. You can bring in tiny little bits in here. So we got these meeples, you know, some classic board game meeples around here.
The meeples.
Little Carcassonne action, maybe. Call out your favorite board game with meeples in the chat, and we'll let you know if it's good or not. But also some more classic kind of story-style pawns here, which, by the way, can be made entirely inside of Illustrator. A nice little quick revolve out of Illustrator.
Oh, that's sick. So that's entirely native from just Illustrator.
Yeah.
No, you didn't hop into any 3D programming.
No, we didn't have to download anything. We make it all with our bare hands right here. So.
And those are OBJs?
So They could be OBJs. Hold on. Let me stop. Let's stop previewing and start.
I'm sorry. I'll let you do your thing.
Oh my god. Knocking my flow around. No, this is good. So here's what we're going to look at, right? All of the various types of things that we can import. We've got GLBs. Let's call them gulbs, for now. So some gulbs. We've got more gulbs. What else did I do? We can do OBJs. I don't think I brought in any OBJs for this one. The complexity of the file will affect playback. So OBJs, I believe, are one of the more chunkier, say crunchier. They're bringing in all these textures. The .glb, everything is contained within the one file. It's nice and small. So that's kind of my preferred kind of...
GLBs over OBJs.
That's what I would do. But of course, GLBs you might find more commonly out in the world, right? Just because these are the universal graphical kind of interchanges of 3D things. The non-proprietary ones, right? Like a .c4d file is for Cinema 4D. Anyway.
This is more universal between programs that you can kind of hop around in.
Exactly. So if you're doing anything with photogrammetry stuff, that's probably going to spit out a .obj file.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that you can also use like OBJs and stuff on different web development if you were like coding a site and you wanted to do like a turnaround or something.
Those are mostly going to be the gulbs.
Those are gulbs.
You're going to find the gulbs.
Yeah, Victor's saying gulbs over in chat right now. Thank you, Victor. Appreciate you.
Get those gulbs. So I'm wondering which project to start with. Which one do we want to really...
I'm liking the bananas. Can we hop into bananas?
Okay, let's do banana first then. So let me just close down some of these
We're a very banana forward stream.
Well, we need our potassium. It's critical. So what's going on in here with the bananas? So if we go into one here, I've got a pre-composed banana here in the space. Now, of course, this was a royalty-free. This is a Creative Commons attribution. So this is who made the banana.
From a different Evan.
Exactly. A different Evan. Makers of fine bananas. But if you just import your .glb or your whatever, it's going to show up over here in the project. Let's make this from scratch, right? So we're going to make a composition. Settings don't matter too much, so let's go with regular HD 2997, etc. And we just drop our gulb onto here. Now, usually the first time you drop one of these things onto the timeline, it'll probably bring up a prompt for you, and that prompt is going to look a little something like this. It's going to be your model setting. It's going to ask you some questions about, hey, you're bringing me this 3D thing. What do you want me to do with that?
Yeah, because that's to transform it into a 3D space, right?
Well, not only that, like if you imagine, where in 3D space does it live, right? Where is 0? Which way is up? All these things that we think about when we're either tumbling through space or drowning, right?
Right.
And that's, we want neither of those sensations. So in here, you can say, make comp size.
Just imagine I'm drowning and I'm thinking of 3D space, but
you have to know which way is up.
I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
It's critical. That's why most people get confused, because you're not opening your eyes in the pond. Anyway, so these are good survival techniques for everyone. So you can see here we've got object scale, and so we can increase and decrease that, and you can see it's going to increase the size of the banana. So depending on the actual real-world scale of your object, you may have to dial that in to make it kind of cohesive, right? The other thing is you can just click Make Comp Size, and then it'll try to kind of fit this logically where it should go.
But your anchor point for this object would be towards the bottom of it, right? Because it seems like it's kind of pointing to the top.
So in this case, the person modeled this banana up and away from where the actual origin of this thing is.
Weird move, but okay.
Hey, look, it's their choice to do. They can do whatever they want.
It's free, so beggars can't be choosers.
I'm not going to complain about it. And it's a great scan of a banana. It doesn't have too many polygons. It's great. And if we jump into the Advanced tab real quick, we've got the model units. So if this were, this thing is currently measuring itself in meters, but if you were bringing this in from like a CAD software or something, that might be really specific. And then here, the up axis. Which way is up? And in this case, we're saying the y-axis is up. That looks pretty correct to me. You can bring it in on the z-axis. You can flip the z-axis. This is important if you're coming from Blender or Cinema 4D, because I believe both of them have differing contrasting opinions about which way is up and which way is positive. So
it doesn't seem like that's a controversial thing to have, but I guess so between the programs.
Hey, let's find out.
Christopher wants to know if it can import FBX files. Do you ever work with FBX files?
I don't believe it can yet. I think it's only the 3. I think it's the Golbos the other way of spelling that, and then the OBJs. So it's those three for now. I believe more formats may be coming. So that's early. It's early days. But remember, check out down here where it says this change will affect 2 layers. This is the same as how we interpret footage. If you were to reinterpret footage, it's doing the same idea. So you will be changing all the other instances of use of banana everywhere. So keep that in mind. Okay, I think that's good housekeeping for how to actually bring these things in. So
now we're all set up.
Yeah, we're good to go. And here it is, banana on the timeline. I can call open my orbiting tools and have a look around. I'm going to switch us into Draft 3D just so that we're going to really be cruising on this.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know.
In the Matrix.
Now, Draft 3D, if you've not been using the Draft 3D, we're stripping away a lot of render stuff. And we get this cool little grid down here. You can see what's going on outside of your outside of your viewer window if you want. And if we come back into the rendered thing, you can see down here the render time is 1.24 seconds. Ouch.
Right.
Go into our render options here, our rendering options. Our render quality is only at 28. This slider goes huge. It doesn't need to. This is a very simple banana. Let's not go crazy. So you can dial that up and down. At the lowest setting, you may see a bunch of grain. You just want to adjust this slider to where the grain stops.
Okay.
So we'll see this.
So it can be pretty low. So you're setting it to like a 26 right there?
Yeah, somewhere around there is probably going to be fine. But for the type of work that we're really going to be doing at this point, it doesn't really matter because we're hitting the draft button, right? We're living in draft mode.
Right. That makes it easier on your system.
Oh, yeah. So this is like a 5-year-old computer, just so that people know and are aware. Let's put all our cards on the table. These are the system specs we're talking about. There's
vulnerable.
There's the serial number. Tell Apple it's stolen. Well, anyway, so.
Also, in the chat, we have a question from Marsha. I don't know if this makes sense to you, but for the beta, does Mac Graphic Display have to support Metal 3? Does that mean anything to you?
So Metal being the type of rendering, I don't believe this machine supports Metal 3. Okay. So if that answers the question.
It might be like an M2 sort of thing.
It could be. So basically, if you're using this machine and newer, you should be okay. Right. And so, like I said, this is 5 years old, this thing. So this is still one of the Intel-based Macs. Okay. So we're not on the M chip. I've used this on the M1 Ultra. It's way faster on that. Right? The M2 again is faster still. So you'll get performance bonuses. I don't believe it is exclusionary. So, but if you're wondering, this is called the Advanced 3D Engine. So hey, all good things come in 3. Rotobrush.
My head's in the way.
Oh yeah. There we go.
Oh, I'm making this blurry.
So yeah, all good things come in 3s. Rotobrush 3 new render engines, True 3D 3s.
And you feel like that's where you mostly are doing the bulk of your work would probably be in this Advanced 3D now?
I think it's probably going to replace a bunch of those. Now, it's important to remember that when you switch render engines, you are disabling a bunch of stuff. There are things that you won't be doing within the different 3D modes. So just keep that kind of in mind, that they have different rules that we play with when we're doing this. And for those of you out there, it's like you're going from Dungeons & Dragons 4 to 5th edition. That's not helping anyone. But you're still doing the same things, but slightly differently, and so some things will not be allowed. That's not how Misty Step works anymore. So these are all really useful things for people. However, we got one banana, right?
Gotcha.
So far, one banana. Now, to make that radial array of bananas that I did, what I wanted to do was actually I want to manipulate this banana elsewhere. I don't want to manipulate this banana necessarily in here, but to set ourselves up for success, I'm going to call open the anchor point, and I'm going to adjust this so that we get the anchor point right in the middle center of the banana, so that if we start to rotate the banana, it's rotating around that axis.
And you're all working in one view, just plain, but there's no camera set up. This is just based off of the viewport that's given to you from After Effects.
Yeah, this is what we might call the assumed camera. You can see it says active camera down there, but this is just the viewport. We're going to drop a camera in later, and it's going to be so much nicer. But for now, we're just working it out. I'm using 1, 2, 3 on the keyboard to go through our keyboard shortcuts to enjoy navigating around, which is fun and good. But yeah, we got this thing rigged up so this is in the middle center. We're going to do a little bit of expressions. I hope that's okay. So I'm just going to call this
Banana Prime.
Trigger warning for expressions.
Yeah, so y'all been warned. We're getting into expressions. It's happening. Now I'm going to say use the banana.
Also, CJ is excited about the D&D. He says, yeah, D&D.
Now we go. My people are in the chat. This is great. So I'm going to bring Banana Prime out here and look, it loads up. Now this isn't three-dimensional yet. Here we go. Let's make it 3D.
Just by clicking that little tick box.
And we are going to collapse its transformations. Kaboom. So now we've brought all the 3D-ness out here with us, right?
Got it.
So important to remember, you put this thing in a composition, collapse those transformations. This is 3D now too. Cool. We can put many, many bananas in here if we really wanted to. We don't. We're going to do our many banana stuff out here. So I'm going to kick us into draft mode just so we're going a little bit faster. I'm going to make a new null object. I'll probably parent the banana to the null. I'm going to put some controls on the null. So I'm going to put in a slider. Hold on. Beta is not always good about searching stuff up, but there we go.
Also, Joe, we're actually in After Effects right now, Premiere Pro. You can make a connection to it, but right now we're working predominantly in After Effects.
It's After Effects time. So what would I want to do to an array of bananas, right? So one of the things I might do to them is to, let's say, I might push them away. I might push the bananas away because I'm a fussy child and I'm not going to eat them.
It's also a pro tip, labeling your sliders so they're not just slider 1, slider 2, slider 3.
Yeah.
Good to have that organization.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to, let's see, we can mess around with the position in here, but I'm going to go inside of this and I'm going to mess around with the position in here so that we are going to, on the y-axis, go up like that. So I want to work with the null in here, so I'm going to lock that down, and that way these controls will be available when I go in here into Banana Prime. So we are going to hold down Option, click on the stopwatch. We're going to say value, the value that it currently is, plus something in some square brackets. I'm just going to type in 0000 across the board. This would return the exact same thing. It's the value plus nothing. Now, in the square brackets, 00000, this is a 3-part thing, 96540, 0. Therefore, we must give it 3-part instructions. And this 0 here, I'm just going to point that to that slider, right?
Nice little pick whip.
Yeah, so if we increase that, you see the banana has shifted. Now, let's go back to use the banana. I'm going to duplicate the layer, use the banana, and I'm going to now rotate this a little bit. Let's say we rotate it, 45 degrees. Let's save, and then duplicate, and then we'll move this to 90 degrees, right? So we got some bananas. So if we come back into our null here and we give this a bit of a crank, you see the bananas are moving away from each other.
They're getting pushed away, as the label says.
Yeah, and they're all, look at this, they're intersecting with each other as well. Look at
That's cool.
Look at the intersection. We're making a kind of banana homunculus.
It's like little fingers.
Exactly.
It's like salad fingers, but it's bananas.
Banana fingers. So we can rig up all of those controls. We have a bunch of other things to get into, so I'll just show you how the rest of those controls kind of remap in here. So I need to unlock this. So basically distance away from the center, the X, Y, and Z angles, that gives me the ability to rotate the bananas as they shift and twirl and dance around. And that is giving us basically an array that we can manipulate, which is something that we wouldn't have been able to do before. Any array type manipulation would have had to have been done in the Blender file, in the Cinema 4D file. You can import .c4d files and enjoy observing them through the native cameras inside of After Effects, but this is just taking that level of control, we're bringing it one step closer to us, right? So that we don't have to go in there to get it.
Less steps for you.
Yeah, and this is the way a lot of other kind of compositing ideas are coming to the forefront with predominantly 3D workflows to say, we're not going to produce the geometry in here. We're going to produce that somewhere else, or someone else will have made it, or will have captured it. We just want to remix it and have fun with it. So that's what we're doing. We're bringing our toys to the sandbox, and then we're playing with them.
You got a DJ Evan over here.
That's right, DJ Banana Dance.
DJ Banana Dance.
Okay, so that's the banana dance, right? And now let's move on to something that is maybe a little bit more like mainstreamy, we'll say. Not that that's
underground bananas. They're too much.
Yeah, people were not ready for that, but that's okay. Let's go into the classic orbiting a hero object
type of deal.
Great. Okay.
Maybe this is a product, right? Maybe this is, a can. Maybe this, whatever it is, right? Now made with so much more taurine. So that's literally all that we're doing here. Again, I'm going to kick us into draft mode just so that it's responding quicker for us. I've got some text layers up here that are doing the showing up and going away, and all of the stuff that we're doing, just moving closer to this Marcus Aurelius character.
Yeah.
All of this is just camera movements.
Right.
Right. This is all just camera stuff. However, here's another bit of true 3D that I wanted to lay down on you here. So, all of the lighting. This looks pretty well lit, right?
It looks great.
I'm gonna toot my own horn and say this is pretty well lit. Just going to come into our render options, maybe reduce this a little, just so that we can see the true version of this as it kind of renders and responds. This is being lit by a single light bulb.
Okay.
A single light bulb.
But not the background, just the object itself.
Yeah, so the background, what's going on back there is that's just a solid with a little gradient on it. There's nothing to write home about back there.
That doesn't need to move at all.
No.
We're just focused on the object.
Exactly. And so the lights that are being cast on it, this is a new type of light. It's called the environment light.
What makes it so different? Why is it environment?
Oh boy. So imagine, if you will, where to start with this? Okay. So usually with lights, in fact, you know what? Let's remove this light and we'll kind of see how does it look when there's no lights going on in the scene. It looks like this.
Okay, yeah.
Right? And this is a little bit more reboot, right? Oh no, Mega Drive is trying to destroy the video game. Any Canadian child out there knows what I'm talking about with a reboot. Maybe some Americans do too. But we can go here, we can go layer, new, light, and we can kick a new light into the scene. And if we were to put in, say, a parallel light. Now, parallel lights shine photons only in one direction. They only travel on the one axis. So we'll just go ahead and create that. Processing.
And that's going to put that at 0, 0.
Well, the way where this thing comes in is the parallel light. It shows up, its point of interest lives at 96540, 0, and its position is kind of like off to the side a little bit.
Okay.
So as you can see what it's doing, right? It's creating this very dramatic type of lighting because it's coming from a single source and it's only going in the one direction. This would be different from, let's go ahead and change it from a parallel to a spotlight.
That's what I feel like I normally land on, is the spotlight, because it's easier to wrap my head around.
And you can see, because it has a cone, right? It's a conical place that its light is coming from one point going forward.
Right.
Now, contrast that entirely with the environmental light, which doesn't, it appears to live everywhere all at once, which is true. Yeah. What we're doing is we're creating a sphere. And on the inside of that sphere is this type of an image, a spherical image.
Oh, okay.
So you can capture this on your phone. There are various apps. Can you place more than one light? You can place 1 million lights if you really want to.
It's going to be hard on your system, but you can place 1 million lights.
Yes. And if you really want to specifically art direct where the light is happening, where the shadow is happening, how each of the shadows is going, please, by all means, enjoy it, love it, get into that process. In this case, we want to be a little bit lazy and just give us an overall kind of good lighting.
Right.
And this being a sphere with this equirectangular thing wrapped around it, right?
Equirectangular.
Well, yeah, is it? I hope so. Yes, it is an equirectangular thing. Anyway, don't come at me about these projections.
No, I'm just excited about all these new words I'm learning today.
Yeah, it's your vocabulary a day is going to go insane after this. So you can capture these like on a phone. There are various apps where you would take like a really big panorama all the way around, and you probably would want to if you were thinking about, I'm going to insert a 3D object into this space, and I want it to appear to be lit by the environment it's in.
Right.
Much easier to just capture that environment. That way anything that's reflected on it will kind of work, right? And I guess this will work better on a desktop with a good GPU. GPU is a must, Joe. You must get the GPU because this is all hardware accelerated. The new engine is hardware accelerated, so yes.
And if you're anything like me, you're going to have to get a bigger case for your computer because the GPUs are so big now. They're bigger than anything. They're bigger than your motherboard, honestly, at this point. It's wild.
Yeah. You should just get a separate thing to keep your GPU in.
I know, right? Anyway. It's a little refrigerator.
Anyway, I've got 4 of these here, and you can kind of see how they're pretty radically different images, right?
Great.
Inside of a house.
So what would you capture this on? This would just be use the panorama.
Yeah. Well, you need a specific
thing?
app that will create a spherical result. So Panorama will create maybe a 180 result, but you need the top and the bottom as well.
Right. Okay.
So you can see how distorted it gets down towards the bottom, right? Because those pixels are really getting smooshed around.
Now, do you capture your own for these, or do you kind of go online and see things that are
I do
available?
not, because there are a lot of great resources out there for royalty-free, these types of HDRIs out in the universe. So go out and enjoy those. So they're out there. But like I say, specifically when you want to capture your own is when, say, you're on set and you're in a really specific scenario where we need that lighting.
Right.
Anyway, we'll touch on this a little bit more. I just want to show you what happens when we deploy this change. So remember, we've got our beautiful environmental light. And if we twirl down into it, you can see that it is taking its source from a Photo Studio Loft Hall. So it's mapping that. I'm going to switch it to this one, the lookout that's outside. Whir, click, click, boom. It's changed from kind of a warm indoor to this cooler sky.
Nice
because
blue.
Yeah, the sky is what's happening up here. We changed all of the lights by changing one layer.
Right.
What would have had to have been a light up here and a light over there and a light over there. And blah, 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 blah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. All one thing.
And you had to drag that orbital image into this composition so that you could use it as a source on that layer.
Exactly.
Right?
So these .hdr files live down here. .hdr, that's the one you want. Not .exr files, .hdr file.
But they're still invisible, but they can still be referenced within the property.
Exactly. They're just layers that we can point to. They don't have to be seen. Just like with what a matte layer would be doing. Right?
Yeah.
Same idea. Now, you're not really limited there. You can start to twist this around. So let's go ahead and I'll just rack this number a little bit. And in fact, I believe this is going to render in Draft 3D as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to see if we can, you can see the sun playing over this person's face, right?
That's beautiful.
Because all we're doing, and now we can rotate the universe if we want to spin the globe.
And you could even keyframe that if you wanted to have like an interesting lighting change.
Exactly. And it is like this X and Y rotation. Imagine you're just spinning that sphere that the thing is mapped onto. And you may want to do that if you're trying to line up, okay, well the light was here, so I'm gonna turn it to be like that. And remember, this light lives in the world, right? It's not relative to this object. So if the object is spinning and twisting and changing, it's the world within, and the camera's moving within that world too. So, it's so great. Anyway.
See, and that's really helpful for me because as someone who has such a hard time with 3D because I don't like to have that weight in between.
Yeah.
The idea that you can have the advanced 3D and it just kind of adjusts with it as you move around is like a big game changer.
Well, and I think, if you're kind of struggling to get into 3D, I say one of the big things, just bring in a model and move around and see what happens, right?
Yeah.
Move some lights around, see what happens. And you got to play with it like Legos. It's the only way to get into it. Now, speaking of moving things around, I better talk about camera movement because I know a lot of people struggle with that. So we might as well just as an aside, talk about moving the camera. So these are some pretty smooth moves going on here, if I do say so myself. Nice, soft glides moving around. A tip for doing this type of thing, use a 2-node camera. So in here we have a 2-node camera. That means that it has a point of interest and a position, and we're manipulating both of those. So what are we looking at and where are we looking at it from? And as those two things move around, the camera angle is made up of that. Now, the reason why I say we should do this instead of a 1-node camera is a 1-node camera is where the thing is and the angle in which it is pointing.
Yeah.
Now, that can be difficult to work with because that's not how we use cameras. Right? We think about, I'm going to look at that, I'm going to change where I am.
Yeah.
This is how I use a camera. I go like this. It's not off-putting when I film things at all.
And it's like you think of it kind of like a string, right? With like 2 tension points that you can kind of move around.
Exactly. And that allows us to be like, okay, the thing, so notice in the keyframes down here, the point of interest moves and then the body of the camera moves, which is how we do it, right?
Interesting.
Oh, I see it's moving, now I'm going to move the rest of me to get a look at it. I see it's moving and move the rest of me to look at it. The eyes move first and then the body follows when we reach the limit of that thing. Similarly, that's going to produce more natural movement if you think about the camera movement in those ways. If the body moves first and then the attention shifts, that's causing something else. That's a different feeling. In fact, why don't we just go ahead and do that while I'm talking about it?
Yeah, I feel like that's probably like more of a novice mistake to kind of have it like line up together in a way that it's all the same jagged movements rather than having the natural offset.
It can feel incredibly robotic when you just line them all up. And if that's the vibe you're after, right? Because that's how like a computer controlled thing would go, right? And so that stop, right? That feels like a harder stop. Nothing has changed about the motion curves in here. And if we just toggle into that, you can see they've all been, squeezed into these
little valleys.
Yeah, little peaks and valleys. But it doesn't feel as smooth because they're both stopping at the exact same time, causing this compounded movement.
That's a great question from Joe. Why would you want to move the camera rather than the model?
Right. If we introduced a second model into here, that's why. Because when you move the scene relative to the viewer, that's easy when there's only one thing. As soon as you get two things in it, now you got to move the two things relative to the viewer. And if you're trying to get this idea that I'm inspecting parts of this object, just inspect different parts of the object. And that's something that I think if you're coming from like a 2D environment, we might put an entire scene and we'll just lock it to a null, right? And then we'll shift the null around. But as soon as it's like, whoa, I got to go from this scene to this scene, or now I got to bring things in and they can't be parented to that null for whatever reason, right? You're getting all this complexity that the parallax is going to get thrown off.
And variables that you don't necessarily want to introduce.
Exactly. And in this case, it's the easiest thing to say, here's a bunch of Legos, let's look at our Legos.
Also, with the new lighting in a global environment, then if you're moving just the object, the lighting is going to change on the object as well.
Yeah.
And so you're going to want it to be more consistent and kind of have the lighting staying static, right?
Yeah, and especially if let's say I'm using the light to specifically like, I've got this side of his face bright. I've got this side of the face in shadow. That means something to the duality of man. and so we're going to twist the camera from one side to the other instead of twisting the model from one side to the other. I'm very artistic.
Yeah. So if you want your work to have meaning, move the camera. In short.
Well, and it produces different feelings when you do it, right? So that's just something to be. We're going a little meta knowledge on that, but anyway. So, like I was saying, let's say let's do another movement here at the end of this. So I'm going to set a couple of keyframes saying the movement will begin. I'm going to scrub ahead and we'll set a couple of keyframes because this is where we're going to go. I like to jump into, say, the top view like this. Okay. And you can see here I can drag around sort of where the focal point is. You can just click and drag those keyframes around. Or you can just rack the numbers of them if you so desire. So you can see this kind of tracking over. So this is a nice, easy way to point on the model to say, I'm going to look at this part of the model now. And then maybe we come into the front view and say, okay, which part of that model did I want to look at again? Oh, right, I want to be looking like down here on the base of the thing. Now I'm going to kick it back into the active camera. So now you see that is indeed where we're looking. And then I'll just kind of dial in, like maybe we're doing kind of like a zoom onto this part or something like that. We're really getting into the details of this stuff. Maybe we're pointing out something about this part of the base.
Right.
And now you can see the intervening movement is both of those moving together to get down there. It's a lot easier, I find, to work it in this way, especially when we start to mix in our kind of camera controls of figuring out where do we want this to be. Notice only the position values change when I'm warping this around.
Right.
But you can, depending on where you've clicked, start changing the point of interest around as well. So having that fine control of where it is. Also, I just kind of wanted to subtly show that the model shows up in all of the different views when you toggle through them because it's true 3D. Oh boy, I spoiled it by breaking character there at the end. But anyway.
No, but it's exciting, and it's also really helpful for me personally because a lot of times when I'm using with camera, like I'll get really frustrated with the idea of like the point of interest kind of really fighting with the position of it.
Yeah.
And, like having that clear path of interest first and then position, I think is a good workflow.
And that's really how we should be directing the eye, right? What do I want to look at? Okay, I want to look at this. Okay, now which way do I want to look at it, right? What am I looking at? Which way do I want to look at it? So anyway, hopefully that helps. Anyway, that's our hero object orbited around. Now these are both lined up at the same time. You just shift them off a little bit like this, give them a little bump.
And you're not even doing that all in uniformity because you want it to feel a little bit more natural in the idea that it wouldn't be robotic. So like you're not going to highlight all of your keyframes and move them to the right by 2 frames because then that'll feel like you did a robot again.
Exactly. You're doing a robot. Yeah. Hey, quit doing a robot.
Doing the robot.
Go over here and do the robot. So, I do kind of want these peaks here So one thing I am a little bit cognizant of, sort of making sure that the two acceleration points are nestled close to or within each other.
Right.
That's something to kind of be a little bit aware of, just making sure that they're not totally disparate from each other.
Okay.
But because if those start to get away from it, then you get like a 1-2 type of feeling, like this is happening and then this is happening. So let's...
Which would be more of like a whiplash. Like
Exactly.
You would have to know the rules to break the rules.
Exactly. But if that's what you want to do, go nuts. Question about depth of field. Sadly, not yet.
Oh, yeah.
Bide your time. It will come. It will come in time.
And that would also be within the camera settings for, yeah.
Right. And as you
Getting
can
ahead
see,
of you.
it's all grayed out. We can't even...
No! Let us click it! Give it time. Give it time.
We'll get there. Okay, so there was that. I want to... We've used about half of the time. And there's still so much more to get into. I want to talk about exploding stuff. Why else would we be here if not to do that? So here we go. It's game time. I'm glad we talked about board games outside of this. I'm glad that's a mutual interest that we share.
Also, Christopher, great mention over in YouTube saying, should be able to make a whole scene in 3D with 2D characters, then you have removed background, so you should be able to make a very nice scene. And that's actually the 3D that I like to do, we were talking about, is the idea that you can use 2D in a 3D space and then kind of move them around accordingly.
Yeah, so like... Also think about, okay, you know what?
But yeah, this method he's about to bring up actually might even help bring that 2D even more into a 3D realm because he's, well, I'm not going to spoil it. I'm going to let him do it.
No spoilies. I want to just go back and pick up one thing about HDR lighting before we're too far out of our skis.
Okay.
So where did I do that? I did that here in Track Shop. Right. So here is a beautiful verdant plain, right? And we went ahead and tracked this. We got the 3D camera tracker that's produced a camera. We've used that camera to, in here, you can select a bunch of lovely little points out there.
Yeah, what is that telling me?
Oh, all these little flowers.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is all the tracking data that the 3D camera tracker has like barfed out into the world.
But it barfed it out. You weren't there clicking like, I love that blade of grass. I love that little part.
Oh, this is my favorite point of contrast over here. This is my second favorite point. No, it's doing all of this, and if you want more of them, you turn on detailed analysis. It'll barf more flowers into the world.
Okay.
Now, if the flowers appear to be in the right place when you scrub through on your timeline, you know that's good because they're not blinking on and off. If you find that these little flowers appear on things that are moving, clouds, waves, people, you want to select a bunch of them, hit delete, and remove them because those are going to mess up your calculation. Do not use those because they're unreliable. The unreliable ocean.
Unreliable flowers.
Exactly. Because they are moving around, they're not able to tell us how to work backwards and figure out where the camera moved in relation to this.
Okay.
But using these, we are then able to select a bunch, right-click, and we're going to say create ground plane and origin.
Okay.
Now we want to do that when we're talking about ground planes. Kick it into Draft 3D for a minute. Look at that. That's our ground plane.
Oh, nice.
This
okay.
mean ground plane. And origin, that's where the two thick lines intersect each other. That is the middle center of our 3D universe, our Cartesian anchor.
And that's talking to the other layers too.
Exactly. So whenever I say my layer, this layer lives at -244, -19, blah, 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 that is in relation to that origin.
Got it.
Right. So that's
if you move that, everything else moves as well?
Yeah, if you change the origin, you're going to make oopsies happen real big. So lock that down, and we'll just leave it. So then I put some text out in the world, and obviously this text looks great. Right? Right? I'm going to be interested in that. So here's the thing. Lighting really betrays that something isn't here.
Yes.
Right? It's obviously not there. And so that's why using an environment light, just click that on, you can see it gets bluer. Now that's because I used this HDR from a field. Green on the bottom, green on, green down here, blue up here. Hey, that's great.
Right.
That's pretty close to what the scene is that we're looking at.
Now, if you were to put a hue change onto that layer, would it also then be reflected in the thing?
No change, I'm afraid. Now
no change. Okay.
That is because if you come on down here to source, there is no masks and effects toggle.
So make sure that you guys know that when you put things in there, it's going to be what you get at base level. You can't adjust that.
Yeah, the HDR is what it is, right?
But you could always edit that in Photoshop or something.
Oh yeah. You can crack open your HDR in Photoshop and mess with the values. HDR stands for high dynamic range, by the way. Just in case people are wondering now, why is it interesting that it's a high dynamic range? Because it is the brightness, the actual numerical brightness of the image that tells us how bright those spots of color blasting photons into the center of the sphere are. The HDR part is important because you may perceive on the image like, oh, that's all the same color of white, right? But that's because all of that is like beyond that 255 value of brightness. It can really max out and throw a lot of photons. Anyway, that was
getting into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, that was totally not needed. What I wanted to show is that this turns blue because the sky is bouncing off of the white object, right? And that's what's being returned to us lighting-wise.
Okay.
I was lucky that I happened to be able to find something that is like this field because obviously I didn't film this. This is from Adobe stock. You know, if someone stood out in the field close to where this HDR was going to be in the world and took their little 360 around to get that. Yep, doing that. That means make HDR. And that's what you would end up with. But it helps us to light this so much easier, right? To get this in alignment with the universe. And then you can adjust your environment in front of it. Now, is this Helvetica Umacorn? No, it's Azo Sans, my new top favorite font. Helvetica, you're dead to me.
How could you?
I know.
How could you?
Betrayal. Okay, so let's explode some stuff. Now, in specific, where are we going to get that stuff to explode, right?
Yeah.
So this is made up of some meeples. These are just shape layers that can be extruded. So they have an extrusion depth that you can deploy onto these. Draw them with a pen tool. That's it. That's all.
Or even bring in Illustrator and convert to shapes.
Yeah, and so you've got options to just draw and create your own three-dimensional stuff, you know. These little pawns, here that you can't, this is not an extrude, obviously. There's no shape that would make that. Let's see.
So if it's not extruded, then how do you do it?
So we can crack open Illustrator real fast, and Illustrator can produce three-dimensional objects. I'll say rudimentary three-dimensional objects, but if you don't want to go hunting for your OBJs and your golobs and your globs, or you're not finding what you want, or maybe the thing that you want, like it has to be a really specific object. We can do revolves, we can do extrudes, and we can do those kind of pillowy inflates of stuff.
And that can actually be 3D coming from Illustrator.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and let's make a one in here, right?
Which is so cool, because if you guys have been messing around with the 3D stuff recently in Illustrator, up until more recent, it was kind of like you were saying 2.5, right? Where it was kind of doing 3D for you, but it was also kind of faking it for you so that when you brought it into After Effects, it wouldn't work in the same way.
Yeah.
But this is a cool update that it'll actually get rid of that discrepancy and be able to then actually make it work.
So if I was going to make this kind of from scratch, right, how I would generate such an object, I'm so good at drawing. I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but
Stay tuned. Up next, we have illustration with EC.
Yeah, I think you can tell where my heart lies with this type of thing. But I'm just going to really quickly kind of merge these shapes together, and then
Shift M for that.
Yeah, and then we'll just kind of bevel this out, and maybe we kind of bevel, the transition point here, and maybe we bevel the transition point here, or however you want to get that going. Maybe you should contact the ground flat. I will say this: I warn ye about 3D objects. If they ever have really harsh, like impossibly harsh corners, that really gives the game away. Because that's
not how the world works.
Yeah, that happens nowhere in nature. So what we're going to do is we're just going to grab the old line segment tool. It's a revolve, so I'm going to cut this in half. Chop. Hold on, what tool am I on now?
Victor wants to know what a meeple is.
Okay, so
what's a meeple?
All right, so a meeple. I don't know what the stands for, but it's anytime there's a tiny little counter in board games, right? So a meeple is kind of the colloquial for the little person adjacent wooden dudes that you put down on the map,
like a little pawn.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, the gender neutral dudes. Meeple is the nice and friendly and non-biased thing that you can put down in the world. They're usually in nice primary colors, but yeah, they're just great. Anyway, it's kind of the universal signal for Euro style board gaming.
All right, we got this thing. Go up to Effect, 3D and Materials, Extrude and Bevel. There's 3D Classic as well, but we don't want that. That's not where we're at.
Brings up this new dialog box.
Sick dialog box. Revolve it and out.
What? That's not a meeple that we want.
This is bad. That's because we're going from the left edge. We want to go from the right edge. Now it's
look at that.
Good. Now I'm going to take the stroke off because I really only want the fill on here. And that's looking pretty perfect to me. I think we nailed it. Now,
yeah, that's
you can
fantastic.
Still come in and you can modify the various components of this. You see that it down reses basically.
But it updates it, which is cool.
Yeah.
You don't have to spin it around.
Mm-hmm. And so all of the stuff in here that is true about it, thinking about things like revolve angle, twist, that's really really going
What
nuts.
board games are you playing?
Yeah, let's not enjoy that. But you can only revolve some of it if you really want to, right? So you can really have fun with those things.
Yeah.
However, let's come down to the bottom, export 3D object. It's going to bring up your asset exporter, and then you want to choose Gultif down here. Gultif, that's our friend. Now, USD, I believe, is a different form of 3D, but if you want OBJ, you can get that too. But the Gultif, you hit export, it's going to send it out. Now we can make use of that over in After Effects. Before we do that, though, make sure you spend a little bit of time in the old Materials tab, because you can bring up the roughness, the metallicness of something. You can apply all these different materials to it. Those will be applied when you open it up in After Effects, right? Because those are baked into the thing that you are making.
Yeah, so you're not coloring it in After Effects.
No, and in fact, those options are not yet a part of the 3D system inside of After Effects. And you may want to like jump into Substance and mess around with stuff in there if you want to get a little bit more nitty gritty with it. If we want like realistic battle damage on these pawns.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? Let's just roll up to Warhammer and we'll bring a bunch of meeples that we kind of roughly painted. That'll get them. That'll get us thrown out of Games Workshop real fast. So I'm sure people would really love it.
People would love it. You know there'd be a handful of people that would love it.
Yeah, no one takes things too seriously. Anyway, so
gamers are very forgiving.
Yeah, exactly. But you can apply a bunch of textures here. They could have displacement maps on them.
Oh, nice.
Stuff like that. So, the world is your oyster with creating these types of things. Sending them out, bring them over back into After Effects. Oh boy, 1:46. I'm having a look at the time here.
Yeah, we got about 10 minutes left.
Anyway, how did we produce this, right? That's the important question. Well, all of these are just things that are I'm just going to call up some of their keyframes. Their position and scale. So all of these are scaling up to 100%, and their position is moving away from the center. Something that's not particularly difficult to do. If I wanted to show you how to do that from scratch, little explodio. So I believe, what did I call them? I called them pawns. Yeah, here we go. So I'll just bring in some of those onto my timeline here. And 3 of them is probably not enough. So we'll start by calling up positions and scales and rotations. Click all of those on. Come on now, I want everybody to have position, scale, and rotation.
Also, Victor, right now, actually, Substance 3D apps are actually an extension of Creative Cloud, so you actually have to have another exclusive Substance 3D plan, but you can have it, and it is offered through Adobe as well.
Oh, and Joe's asking, does each one have their own light source? In this case, no, but that is something. You can include cameras and lights within these things, and I believe you can even extract them out. I didn't because I wanted to try to keep this simple for today's stuff. I want to try to keep it a little bit simple. You can also have animation in these things. You can have an animated.obj if you wanted to. And anyway, we're getting
complicated real quick.
Things are getting wacky.
Also, hi to Rick. Welcome. Z by HP with Rick.
So what we're going to do here is these things they're going to scale and they're going to change their position. I've set keyframes in the future and in the past. The position, totally fine, but the scale for all of them, let's begin our journey with a scale of 0 at the start. So they're all going to get larger, and then they're all going to go somewhere. So let's go ahead, and before we get too far down the road, I think maybe I'll just duplicate this a couple of times so we got a whole bunch of them. Let's go into the top view. Hey, look at that. Hey, it's our pawn in top view. I'm just going to start grabbing them and randomly moving them around.
So did these prior come in with some as yellow, or did you put like a fill on top of one?
Right. So I made 3 of them. I made one yellow one, one gray one, and one white one. Now that is because these things will not even accept effects.
Okay.
So there's that.
Effectless.
That's right.
very feckless. So we're going to move these away like that, and then we're going to have a look at them from the front, and I'm going to apply a little bit more kind of randomness to the way they are, kind of like this, up, down, wherever they go. And then to get them feeling explodey, let's just go ahead and grab their keyframes. I've got...
Whoa!
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them in here. We're going to just observe the speed graph to keep our lives a little bit...
Oh, thank goodness.
And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to just stretch them a little bit like this so that they are... Hold on.
Wait for it. Wait for it.
Oh, we're going to kick it into draft so we can get this going.
Draft 3.
So they kind of like pop out like that, right? And that causes pretty much what we're looking for, and then it's all a matter of just kind of timing everything out. So in here, one of the things that makes us feel kind of drifty and floaty is that everyone is...
I want to float.
Yeah, well, I want to float. We've got just a little camera push while this stuff is kind of exploding and getting wacky, and that just causes that kind of floaty feeling as it drifts through.
And you're keeping that point of interest still in the same spot, and this one you're kind of moving more so just the camera position, right?
Exactly. And in fact, the camera is parented to a null, and the null is like in the center of the universe.
Okay.
And the null is doing a little bit of a rotation, on a couple of axes to create that kind of twisting through the storm type of feeling that we're getting into. So parent your camera to a null, let the null do some of the orbiting and controlling, right? Because that's one of the fun things we can do virtually that we cannot do physically to cameras without big beefy arms and stuff everywhere.
Right.
So,
and you do all that secondary. So you would probably go in and you would finish all of your meeples and your pawns, and then you go back with your null and do modifications, right?
Yeah, it's a bit of a back and forth, right? Because I'm creating the massive stuff, and then I'm moving to the angle that I like within that massive stuff, and then maybe it's like, well, I'll just push these a little bit out of the way to make space for game time coming in.
Yeah.
But we talked a bit about, oh, bummer, we can't apply effects to stuff. Well, then how do you explain some of these spooky skulls that I've got in here? So here is a skull. That's where it comes from.
All right.
DJ Mason.
DJ Mason. With DJ Evan.
Nice. DJ Banana Dance.
DJ Banana Dance.
So in this composition, I have a skull and I have a light, and the light is simply orbiting around the skull, creating this spooky reveal of the skull, right?
Okay.
So, but remember, there's only two things that are happening. The skull is tilting up, the light is orbiting around. That's all that's going on. Right?
Is that HDR lighting?
No, this is just a regular old parallel light because it's producing this incredibly harsh lighting, right, that only comes from one angle. That means that like when it is behind, we see nothing.
Right.
And then when it comes to the side, we see pretty much only the side.
For a cool reveal.
Exactly. So now I'm going to tab over to where this is being used into the stylized result of this,
okay.
Right? So
how about them effects once it's pre-composed?
Right. So these have been pre-composed, which means we can treat it like footage, right?
Right.
But you could also just drop an adjustment layer over top of these, right?
Okay.
No one's stopping you. So that's still going to apply to all the pixels below because it's still going to be treated like footage.
Right.
Now, there's also a workflow that says you can use various effects to kind of bring the render to somewhere else. Maybe we won't get into that so much. That's a bit of an advanced move. But in this case, all I've done is I've applied just a small number of effects on it, right? I've put a curves on it to kind of bump the contrast.
Right.
Put a tint on it, make it black and white, and then a posterize down to 2.
Posterize gives that nice grainy feel to it.
Yeah, so maybe if you wanted like 8 or something, or maybe you wanted to bring this down to maybe like a 5. So we're really just reducing the number of colors that are going on. I was going for kind of like if there's any gamers out there, Curse of the Obra Dinn. Sorry, if there's any indie gamers out
great. That's so cool.
That's a great game, right? And I had in my mind, well, I want to do a mid-tone pass on that. So what I've done out of this, let's see if this will kind of show up for us. Click, whir, grind.
We're in that full resolution right now.
I know. Why am I testing it so much?
5-year-old computer. Yeah. See if you can handle the test.
Yeah. Also, the big question of like, where are the lights? Am I even looking at the thing? Oh, I've zoomed way in. What am I doing?
Enhance.
Yeah, I'm really enhancing this bad boy.
Which we got about 2 to 3 minutes left.
Okay, hold on.
Speed round.
Okay.
Skull edition.
So this one here that's kind of on top, what's going on with that if we just crank everything back? We put a curves on it, then we put a tint on it, then we posterize it to 3 levels, nice. 1, 2, 3. I extract
the middle level, so just the gray.
So you're taking the gray out?
Just keeping the gray. So,
Got it.
So keep gray, then fill gray, filling it with black. But let's fill it in with red for now, and then just apply a Venetian blinds to that.
Oh, cool. Venetian blinds. Didn't think to use that as a texture.
Right. And so because that's locked to the frame, it's going to feel like I was kind of half toning it or something, right?
Oh, too crazy.
Okay,
That's
now
cool.
I just change this down to black, right? Or maybe yellow or, whatever you want out of this. But,
Yeah.
But this then produces that stylized overlay of the thing. Now,
and only to the gray.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is cool.
Now, this is like where I'm revealing the hero element just through lighting. Only lighting is causing this, right? It's only the orbit of the light that produces that. What about, okay, here's another kind of idea. Here's another way of kind of revealing this type of thing. Now, I've got the render of this so that we can just play it back real quick.
Because we got about like 60 seconds left.
Oh, Lord. Okay, then never mind. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say that what I'm doing is I'm pushing the GLB through a plane. So there's just a black plane, and this is being pushed through it. Because the two 3D objects intersect with each other, you get it like it's coming out of water or something. Then I'm using an adjustment layer with a bunch of cool stuff on it. That's basically, there's a lot. I'm tinting, I'm blurring, I'm posterizing, I'm finding the edges, right? But all of that is then contributing to the final kind of look of this thing. But it's all based on this idea that this is going to push through the mist or whatever. Now, this is where Draft 3D is going to hurt you, because when it's on Draft 3D, we're not going to see all these effects and stuff. So you've got to take it to the final version. But you get this cool kind of topography as it's, coming through something, right? And all we're doing is we got a plane and we're merging it through the plane. Anyway, I see we're running out of time, so we got to.
Well, thank you so much we learned so much. We learned about the different types of formats that are coming in. We learned about True 3D. We learned about drafting. We learned about the flurry of different things. So make sure you guys check the replay if you got confused about anything. Also, we can find you online anywhere with
at EC Abrams all around.
Abrams all around. And then stay tuned. We got some more Adobe Live coming up next, I believe, or is this the end of it?
Office hours.
Office hours, of course, office hours. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back in just a little bit. Thank you, everybody, for watching.